Good evening to the Town Council budget meeting for October 29th. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So,
Let's start with the town clerk tax collector on page 30.
come on down, Terry. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Her budget has a 2.5 decrease.
Okay. Do you want to walk us through it, or just give us the...
You want to just, a quick overview? What's
I'm
the-
assuming that's a difference in salaries between...
Exactly, difference in
Jackie and-
salaries. The only thing added, well, actually, it wasn't it was a slight reduction from last year, was the codification is still in there. Just give an update on that project. The attorneys are still hashing through all the old resolutions we've had since we've been chartered for 20 years and trying to come up with a code book. So we should have a draft, I would say sometime early spring.
Yeah.
For the council. What's going to happen is the council's going to just vote on, no laws have been changed, it's just been codified, and you guys will just vote on that as one big document, so.
Okay. What page are we on, Steve?
You're on page 30. And the money in there now is for when you guys change the ordinances during the year.
So is that the overview?
That's it, there's really not much changes.
Does anybody have any questions? Tony?
One of the things we talked about after the last election, I think, was the purchase of another ballot box or some machine. Is that in there? Or
That is not in there.
And
Nope,
so we're not going to do that? Did we
Not at this
decide that was
time.
not necessary? Okay.
nope.
We probably could do it in the next fiscal year 17, because that's when we hit the next presidential election.
Are there any other questions? Councilor Nazaro?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it the year of the presidential elections, the time that it like spikes in this department? It like goes up because of like,
Depends on the number of
Ballot
elections
clerks.
per year.
okay.
Yeah.
So like a presidential year, 17, we'd actually see the highest.
Fiscal year 17 would be when the budget goes up, right, it would be the highest.
So it seems like we wouldn't want to purchase that machine until a year that it's low, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
This would be the year, it's the lower year, because you only have the
this year
municipal.
or the year like outside after the
Right.
presidential election, down the line.
What do they cost, Tara?
I'd have to look into the
About
exact.
12,000.
What's that?
12,000.
Now, we had the one at the is that all we have, is just
Yeah.
one? You know, the only question I would have is, do we really have a problem if you go back to the last election we had at the junior-senior high school? I don't remember a problem then. So I
No.
think the problem may have been created more because of the
It was because of the
constraints
number of ballots.
downstairs. Well, obviously, both.
Right.
The ballots and the fact that we did it here.
Right, and we typically don't have 5 ballots at an election. We usually have 2. So, it's 5 times to stand at the box, 5 times in the booth, 5 times checking in, so I think that was more of
This
that
year,
issue.
we're going to have a bunch of warrant articles, not warrant articles, but
Yeah, warrant
those warrant
Right.
articles for the CIP,
Right,
so,
so we could see that same problem due to the number of ballots.
depending upon how many people
You
vote.
won't see
Right.
you won't see 5 pages of town ones, though.
Right.
For the charter amendments. That was the perfect storm of things that could go.
Right,
The
The turnout
bond,
was so high too.
the
'cause it was-
charter.
Right.
Turnout, right.
charter school, though. Yep.
So maybe we can actually do some kind of a, take a look at what the waiting time was, if we go back to the last election we had at the presidential election at the junior-senior, because I don't remember it being a major issue.
The lines were nowhere near as long.
So I mean, we may or may not need that, depending, I think if we had it all to do over again, we would have probably had that election over at the junior-senior than having it in town hall.
That was the
That's
wish of
pretty-
that was the wish of the town, was to
That's-
have the election over there.
Yes.
For the record.
Yeah, no, listen, I think people just didn't expect to, you know. Counselor Wright.
Those machines, you have to purchase them?
You do.
You do,
Yep.
it's not like a one-time, no, so they have to.
No, there's no rental or, yep, it's a one-time purchase. And we do share that machine with the school for the town and school election, so could always talk to the school about possibly purchasing that second ballot box. But
Got a couple of quick questions, Terry, since I don't see any lights. Full-time salaries, if I'm reading this right, page 30, it shows actual for 14 was 70,000, and the proposed for 16 is 101. Am I reading that right?
You are. The reason why is there was a vacancy.
Okay.
We didn't fill, when the former town clerk tax collector left,
Yeah,
she was making more than what the substitute was making,
okay,
and she was also making more than what Terry's making.
okay.
So-
I just want to,
Because if you look at the years before, it was 107.
so,
Yeah.
so that's 30,000. And then if you go to the next line, it was 41 for part-time,
Mhm.
actuals in 14. And this year, we're proposing 27.
Because we're eliminating a part-time position.
Okay. So there's, just between those two lines, it's about 40-odd grand, close. What I'm kind of getting at is, where did we get there's $40,000, where did, and then, well, I'm just going down a quick,
Where's 40? There's 30.
30, and then,
Yeah.
and then the difference between 41 and 27? For the part-time,
Yeah.
isn't that?
I'm
To
sorry.
wash it,
I'm sorry.
What's the 41 number?
41 was the actual for part-time salaries that they spent in 14. This year, we're proposing 27. Am I wrong?
I got to get something because my spreadsheet's
That's what
not
I see.
correct on my computer.
That's correct. What is your point you're making?
Well, the point I'm making is,
Mine says
that's a
7,000, so.
that's a savings,
I know.
unless I'm doing something wrong. The first line is a savings of 30,000. I'm using rough numbers. The next is a savings of about 14,000, or am I doing something
First
wrong?
line's not the
You're
same.
looking at 70,000 from 2014, the actuals?
Yeah.
And you're comparing it to our current year budget?
Yeah, I'm comparing it to the 101.
Oh.
Okay, so it's a 30,000 increase. Okay. And then part-time decreased.
I apologize, yeah, so I get, no, so what I'm getting at is, so part-time went down about 13 or 14, right?
Yes,
Full-time went up about 30
yes. Over actual,
Oh, right.
over actual.
which is because of the vacancies.
Vacancy.
We had vacancies in 14,
That have been,
filled in 15,
Or eliminated.
or eliminated. Okay?
Before, we had 3 full-time employees
you know,
and 1 part-time employee. We've now gone to 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees.
okay,
And
And
then,
also, part of one of those full-time employees' pay was coming out of assessing, which is
Right.
no longer there.
okay. And then I'm looking at the election officials. That's going to be going up roughly $3,500 from
No.
maybe I'm,
No, it's going
we have
down.
a decrease.
we,
From
the
65.
actual was 15 and we're budgeting 5106. Am I reading this wrong? What the hell's going on?
Because that wasn't an election year.
Right.
When the election years, when there's an election,
That was
it goes up.
Right.
Okay,
And in 16, fiscal year 16, you're gonna have the town election, a presidential primary,
okay.
an open presidential primary.
And that's why we're budgeting
Right, you're gonna need a
Higher
lot of
amount.
ballot
$500 more,
clerks.
whatever it is. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out why we're going up in a couple of areas.
I think overall, you're seeing this department, its budget decline. You can see in 2014, the department's budget was just over 200,000. We're now asking just over 162,000. So it's a $40,000 decline over the last couple of years. Most of that, however, 15,000 is for the codification.
Well, in all honesty, the final budget for 14 was, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but the agreed-upon budget was 200,000, and they actually spent 156.
Right, and that was because of a vacancy.
Yeah, I'm
It was
just bringing it up.
The clerk resigned.
Yeah, and now we're going to 162 from an actual of 156. That's all I'm bringing up.
Right, but before we had 3 employees in the office. So there was a time when we were down people.
Yeah.
And instead of going to what we had for staffing in the past for historically, with 3 full-timers, she went with 2 part-time, 2
And 2
full-time,
full-time.
to reduce that cost. So the 200, I can even say in 2013, the budget was 177, actual expenditures was 173, so it was closer to exactly what it was. That was just an anomaly because of the resignation of the town clerk.
Yeah, it's not that it's the end of the world. All I'm trying to bring up is the fact that the actuals for 14 was 156, and now it's, what's being proposed is 162. That's all I'm trying to bring
Right,
up.
that's why we're trying to, it's the vacancy. Yeah.
It's fine, I'm just,
I think we got it.
I'm trying to figure out why they're showing the budget down. That's the only thing that's, your budget down is from actuals, is what you're trying to say.
From what was proposed,
Yeah.
which the last year's budget was proposed at $166,544, which was approved by the voters. The budget's now being proposed at $162,270. That's why it's down to that 2.57%.
Any other? Go take care of your cold.
Oh, thanks.
Don't travel to New York.
That's right.
IT, go to that one with this page. $40. No, we have different departments already
I
been in.
guess I didn't realize that Terry wasn't gonna stay and talk about each, like, who would talk about welfare? I mean, who would talk about,
Me.
okay, who would talk about the one I had, who would talk about code enforcement?
Me,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I thought
Or Matt, or...
Matt just walked out with her. Okay.
No.
Never mind.
We're here.
Here's my coffee.
Yeah.
Matt will be here for
We're
later,
here.
I'm sure.
Um,
Okay.
IT, proposed budget $165,139, which is a reduction from what was budgeted of $169,539, or down 2.6%. It's mainly...
I don't know why I get hung up on what we actually spent to what's being proposed, but I guess that's just my nature.
Well, if it's a big difference, it's interesting. If it's,
Yeah.
it's a few dollars,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't think you...
9 grand. 9 grand here, 10 grand there. Pretty soon it's...
I mean, the difference
50.
there is that you had software maintenance was a difference between of about 4,000. You had, that was really probably another 4,000, about another 1,000 in vendor support, another 3,000 in licenses. So, I mean, that was the difference between actual and what was spent.
Yep.
Council Weinstein?
I just have a question about the overall structure of the IT department. And so like I see licenses and things like that are in this budget, but if there was a major equipment purchase, would that be in the individual department
What do you mean by
budgets?
major?
Or, I don't know, computers for the tax collector's office, would that then,
No, that's,
it's not in the IT budget?
That is in the
It is in the
Oh,
IT
it is,
budget.
okay,
Yep.
okay. So then there aren't any we're not expecting any big purchases.
If there were to be a major expense, we had a major failure, we'd go to capital improvements. We do have a
Capital Reserve Fund,
What's in that?
I want to say 35,000, but I'd have to,
$37,388.
Doug, what's miscellaneous equipments?
For Channel 13.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Matt and I have talked about recategorizing that. What that really is part of it is operating expenses and then equipment. So we lumped it into one line and called it miscellaneous equipments. But it can be things like a piece of equipment fails downstairs, we have to replace that.
Now, does the money that Comcast gives us, does that go against that number?
No. It goes into the general fund.
There's no cable revolving fund.
Test to it, yeah.
No, but they give us X amount of, what is it?
Correct.
Is it 10 grand? I can't remember what it
I believe
was.
It's about 120 a year.
120, they're not giving it, they're giving us $120,000 a year, Comcast?
They give us two lumps of money. The first one is a franchise fee, which is the $120,000 you're speaking of.
Okay.
The second one is the $10,000 a year. That goes into, we put it into a
I
grant
thought that was for the
account.
equipment, wasn't it?
It's for equipment. In years past, it has run through the school district, but now we're trying to run it through the town. So it's now in a town account, like a grant.
And the school can make a motion for that money, can they not?
Yes.
Yeah, they've come before us before. Where does the 120, what happens with that?
It's a revenue. It's a part of that 5 million.
And does that go, where does that get annotated? Is that,
Revenues.
so it's not part of
No.
his department?
It's not
just-
like, it's not a revolving
So
fund.
you treat that like auto?
Yep.
And stuff like that?
Because you would have a huge Channel
Yeah.
13.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just asking. So it's $120,000 a year, and then you use that basically across the board to run the town
Yep.
like anything else?
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I think the amount's a little higher than that.
I think it might be as well, yeah. I thought it was 140 last time, but.
Huh, okay. Counselor, the lights are almost, I don't know why you're here, Doug. The lights are, I can see the lights are on, but I can't barely read any of the numbers, so maybe someone can.
That's about to die.
Work on
That thing
that
is in
soon.
desperate
That's
need
gonna
of
be
Anyway,
replacement.
Counselor Nazar's been waiting while I can see it.
So,
Sarah Weinstein.
Yeah.
real quick, where does that fall in the revenues on page 17?
I think it's.
Matt, just sit up here with your
Yeah,
computer.
you might as
I
well.
know.
Let me get it.
I'm gonna need some Darth Vader glasses soon.
That was a jerry-rigged item that's gonna die soon.
Yeah.
Was a little humorous.
I know.
You want to redo this budget?
While you're looking that up, I can ask Doug some questions.
Yep.
So the miscellaneous equipment, Channel 13 miscellaneous equipment is going up from 5 to 6. Like, is there a specific purchase that's causing it to go up?
We expended $1,500 this year for a hard drive failure downstairs. And generally, the operating expense is $49.98 a year. So we've been asking for $5,000 a year, which was pretty tight. We asked for $6,000. We'll wind up overspending that honestly this year. Because again, we had to spend $1,500 for an equipment failure down there.
So we know we're going to spend more than that? Why is that all we're putting in here?
I'm sorry?
We know we're going to spend more than 6?
We didn't know it at first. I proposed the $6,000. We had the equipment failure recently.
Two different budgets here. The equipment failure is in the fiscal year, the current fiscal year.
Right, but he's talking about the operating
Oh,
expense.
Right. What he's saying is, we had 5,000 last year. We knew of a piece of equipment that failed for 1,000. We've been expending to almost the 5,000 every year for purchase of equipment. We need to bump that up because our other equipment's getting older and it's gonna start failing. We need to have that in bigger cushion than just the right to $3 or what was it, $43. So we bumped it up to 1,000 more.
All right. Well, it's Channel 13 operating expense. Because you just said it's operating expense.
Channel 13 operating expenses are things like the PEG streaming, where people can go home and watch the meetings live, or the PEG Vault, we call it. People can go home and watch a meeting without the benefit of having Comcast. Those kind of things aren't hosted here. Those are hosted remotely, and a lot of bandwidth, very bandwidth intensive. We tried hosting that ourselves at one point. Doesn't work very well. So we have to pay to have somebody else host that stuff and stream that stuff for us. That's what I call the operating
It's a
expense.
fixed fee?
It's a fixed fee every year.
And last question, well, two really. One is, what is the actual from software maintenance in FY13?
Maybe Matt can
Got
tell me
it.
that.
Yeah.
$37,800, I'm sorry, $37,561. We transferred money out of there.
So 37 in FY13,
Yep.
38.5
Yep.
in 14. What difference is going on that we expect to go up to 42.5 this year?
There was an expenditure that I've been it comes in right at the end of the fiscal year, and if I can push it into sort of the next fiscal year, it makes it a little easier for me to budget with it. This one came in earlier this year, so it fell into that fiscal year. So I'm trying to budget it out that way, instead of saying, it was always one of these things that would come in June 28th, let's say, or June 20th. And I would try and push it out to the following fiscal year. And it's coming in earlier and earlier every time it comes up. So instead, I'm budgeting it in the current fiscal year now.
It's still happening once a fiscal year, so it shouldn't change the gross number.
Yeah.
We were only spending 38.5.
And we bumped it up last year, which I don't remember why, to 47.5.
Right.
Was there a specific purchase that was supposed to go on?
Not that I can recall, a 47.5.
I mean, to me, if we went back down to 39 or 40,
Looks like we're spending about 38-ish, give or take. And it went, if I'm reading this right, from 45.8
No.
to 47.
do you have something done?
I see why I did that, actually. It was, we redid the website with Virtual Town Hall, and I think it was a $5,000 one-time expenditure.
This year?
This year, yeah. And then next year, we budget, I believe it's $1,500 every year thereafter. So,
To keep, for upkeep?
for upkeep. And
So-
hosting, again, they host it.
So 1,500 still puts us at 40, not at 42.5.
Right. Yeah, honestly, I'm looking through my numbers right now, and I don't have 42.5, so
What do you have?
I have 40.
And we can reduce it?
Yeah.
That's all.
So that's going to be reduced by $2,500.
Yeah, it is interesting, the final budget was 42 and 14, and then it went up to 47, and then it went down to 42 again. And it looks like we're spending around, I don't know, 38 to 39 or whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay. So that's $2,000.
Yep.
We'll go with Counselor Pike and then Wright.
Yeah, well, it's all along the same line, because the vendor support, I'm not sure what vendor support is, but have you spent any on that in the last couple of years? It doesn't show any expenditures under the 2014 or 2015. That's only 1,500, but if you look at the software licenses up above, you were about 2,800 underspent in 2014. So are those are all, you got software maintenance, software licenses, and vendor support, and they've all kind of been underspent the last couple of years. Do you expect those to go up this year?
Software maintenance is recurring software expenditures that we're obligated to pay every year, let's say. Software licenses are new software that we're rolling out. So, for instance, we're on a 7-year-old version of Microsoft Office. We should probably be bumping up to something more current. We can't do it all at once. The expense would be dramatic. So what we try to do is just do 15, 20, whatever every year. That's what that 4,000 line item goes for.
So do you think you'll spend it this?
I think we'll spend it this year. We kind of have to start moving off of that old version.
Okay, and what is the vendor support?
Vendor support is a vendor that we work with out of Merrimack that basically if I'm out sick or something, or if something really blows up and we need an extra set of hands to come in and
Okay.
bail us out, they come in and they bail us out.
But we haven't been using it at all.
We
That's
did-
the point, I guess.
We did in 13.
Yeah. I think
We used it all.
How much?
We used actually 1,500.
So do I hit 3,500? Reduction? I don't know, I'm just asking.
3,500 reduction to 2.
No, in other words, 2,000 plus the 15. I mean, do you think you need it in there? Could you find it somewhere else? I'm just asking.
I think his department, you need to see exactly what we're spending on technology. And that is, if the contracted services start going high on that, that's something we need to know, because of the fact that is he, we need to look to make sure is the time being allocated correctly. I don't want to say it this way, but is there enough staffing for the IT department, that kind of item? So I think 1,500 should stay in that line item. Software licenses.
You can't do a whole lot about that, I would assume.
Yeah.
But all I'm,
Well, you did take 2,500 off already, because it was 42.5 down
Right.
to 40. So you've gotten 2,500
But
off.
I'm saying licenses, not maintenance.
No, I understand
Okay.
that, but Gary was asking for 30.
I'm basically, yeah, I'm
He was
basically.
asking for 3 off the whole thing, and you've already given 2,500.
2,500?
Yeah, I was basically saying, since we haven't been using that, and it's only 1,500, if you added that to the other reduction, could you find it within his overall budget?
Well, if you dropped it by 500, you'd be at your 3,000, if that would.
Right.
That would be, because you've already gotten 2,500 from the maintenance, so that would be the 3, if you wanted to use that as a reasonable number.
We do 1,000.
I mean, I'd take anything we can get at this point.
We'll just do
I
1,000
think every
on that,
little bit
find it.
helps.
So that's 3K off on this one.
Yep.
Okay.
Counselor Wright and Nazaro.
Yeah, in fiscal year 2015, it's proposed that 3,000 grant for the UNH intern is,
That's zeroed out, I believe. Isn't that line item currently at zero?
just on what happened.
We decided that it was not an efficient way to move forward with our document management system, that there's new and emerging technology that's covering those bases for us better than what we were doing, and it just never really worked out that well for us, so
Okay,
we
fine.
zeroed that line item out.
And basically, weren't they just going to sit here and scan documents all day?
That was it. And again, there's better emerging technologies to handle that now, so. It was great, 5 years ago maybe, but.
I apologize, Counselor Nazaro.
Do we have like a plan for how often we're updating software, like our Windows version, and like which machines get updated when? Is there like any sort of?
Typically, I don't update Windows versions. Whatever that PC ships with, that's what it's going to have until it dies. Because generally, they run for about 5 years. We run them for about 5 years. So no, we don't upgrade Windows. We will upgrade Office.
Office, okay.
Yeah.
What about Office? Do we have like a plan for like when we update it?
Basically, I update whenever, generally, the police department is the first one that notices there's a new version out, and they're getting pelted with new versions that they can't open. So they're usually the first ones that will upgrade. And then after that, it's kind of on an as-needed basis. Some departments never run into an issue with it, that there's a new version out there. There's no hard and fast plan.
I just feel like we should be looking more strategically at what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would prefer to that every year, X number of boxes are replaced.
Yeah, some departments don't need it, that's
Yeah.
fine. Let's save money on the departments that don't need it, but I think that it should be more like,
I think I have on my notes from last year, you said 8 PCs get replaced every year.
Usually 10 or 11. I mean, I have a schedule. It's usually 10 or 11, depends on the year. And again, those PCs, when they're rolled out, they get a version of Office on them. So if it's a newer one, generally, they're going to get that newer version of Office. And we make sure we put it in a place where it's not going to cause too much grief. Generally, the last few versions of Office have been really good with their backward compatibility. Haven't had a whole lot of stumbles. Somebody's running 13 or 10 or 7, and it all kind of talks. They've finally gotten over that hump, it seems like.
so you know which computers you're replacing this year?
Yes.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's what, yeah.
And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, other than to say, if Comcast is giving us the money, I'm just asking, maybe it doesn't really matter, but wouldn't we run the department, or consider running the department on, I'm not saying use all that money. I mean, they could, maybe it's going to go, does it go up a percentage every year, Matt, or is that what's negotiated when we finally meet with them?
We're at this peak, it's 5% of the bill.
Yeah.
We're actually seeing a reduction in that because people are
Going to satellite and
going to
stuff?
satellite or going off
Okay.
cable. So you are seeing a slight reduction in that.
The only reason I brought it up is because, it's sort of like a revolving fund in a way.
But you
They're
can't-
running the department, and I'm just wondering,
The law only allows us to do certain revolving funds and
Oh.
for certain reasons. Yes, they allow it for Channel 13, but they don't allow it for IT. So if you got the side of the revolving fund, you just,
You have to
you're
split it
doing
up.
it, right, and you're doing it anyways. You're just taking that money and putting it towards there.
I was just,
Yeah.
curious. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? By the way, whatever you did to make the online stuff faster has certainly worked, because it used to be crazy.
Good.
You'd click on something, honestly, and nothing would happen you'd watch a meeting and it would stop, and you'd watch, it would stop. It was so painful, it was ridiculous. So, I mean, I think it's been pretty effective. I think Chris is now, after we get done with a meeting, it's actually automatically updating, so even if it's not titled, sometimes at like 1 AM, for example, you might have the meeting up, so
Right.
it's better. People are getting the information faster.
Yeah, just sort of, I don't get a chance to talk with you very much, but did you have any way of telling how much usage of that video on demand is changing? I get a sense that it's lots and lots more people are using that.
Lots and lots more, to the point where we almost had to upgrade our package a little bit because so much bandwidth was being used. We had so many people watching the meetings, which,
Which is a great thing for the
Thank you.
community.
That's
That-
pretty
that-
What's our share? Do we get a 20 share, Doug? All kidding aside, do we get any kind of feedback as to what kind of, no?
it's rare. Occasionally, we'll get a web
I mean, is there a
feedback.
way to know that more people watch the meetings I'm sure more people ultimately watch them online than they watch the meetings live?
I would
No.
imagine.
Yes? No?
Do you think, I think live, because usually people, actually, no, I'll take that back, because now with HD,
I
Right.
bet more people watch it on,
the worst thing that happened was before you'd flip through the channels and you'd see it, you'd turn it on. Now with HD TV, it's not in the HDT lineup that you're flipping through and it's not there.
Well, your point about more people going to
Yeah.
satellite, you can't get it on
Right.
satellite.
So,
I was hoping we could get on demand when we sit down with cable. Because truthfully, some of the downtime with Channel 13 is excruciatingly painful. That has nothing to do with you per se, but it would be great if we could do on demand on Channel 13. That's one of the reasons I wanted to, I don't know if Comcast will
I know-
consider that, but anyway.
the only community I know that's trying that right now and we're working with Comcast is Boston.
I mean, it certainly would make it a lot better than watching a scroll by with a Halloween pumpkin, at times. Nothing against Halloween, so I don't like Halloweens. Anyway, are we all done with Doug?
we are.
Doug, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, what do you want to do?
Fire.
Fire?
Fire.
Sounds ominous.
We are on page
49.
49, thank you. It is an increase of 0.39%.
Outrageous.
So, let's see. You want to give us an overview or anything? Did the full-time salary went up a little bit? Did somebody get a raise?
That
or-
was just the distribution of the merit pool.
I see.
That's what all increases in full-time salary would reflect.
Some of that was full-time, some of that was one-time bonus, some of it was full,
Yep.
Was this one of them that was actual change for, ad infinitum?
Yeah.
Okay.
The part-time salaries is up a little, overtime was up a little, and diesel fuel's up a little. I had requested some other equipment, but we're right back where we were. Everything else is pretty much where it was the year prior.
General supplies, and medical supplies were, from actuals, are both up a little bit. Is there a reason, do you
Just the
think?
call volume goes up, and we're getting less and less at the hospitals now. We used to be able to get resupplied at the hospital. They're cutting back, so we have to buy our own.
But it's, wait a minute. All I'm trying to say is, general supplies was actual, Rick. You budgeted 65, and we spent 51.9 in 14. And then general supplies was a 12.5, which is, you kept both those lines flat.
We actually, we held the line on some things due to that snowy winter. So we held off on some of our purchases.
Okay.
So some of those actuals were kind of like frozen.
Okay.
We'll wait till July for the new budget.
Okay. Counselor Weinstein and then Pike.
I just had a question about the ambulance expenses.
Yes.
In FY '13, there was nothing budgeted, and then, or in '14.
Yep.
And so, and then it went up to 16. So I was just curious.
That's a new line item. What used to happen is when we use the X or ALS paramedic service, they were collecting their fees, and now we have to collect them. So we collect them, and then they bill us every month. And it started in the middle of a budget cycle. It didn't start at the beginning of our budget cycle. They sprung it on us, and we had to kind of fall in, and so that's why it's hard to see a trend there, but it started in the middle, per se, and it's where we think we'll be, based off the calls.
Counselor Pike?
Yeah, just a reminder, last year, it looks like communication services went up $3,000 about, and, right, 7,500, and it's being funded at the same amount. Is that, what changed that it went up? Did you add two lines together? It didn't change from this year, it's changed from previous year.
Yeah, we had added some tablets with the cards and so forth for the apparatus. That may be a little excessive there, actually.
Because that's what I was going to ask. We
Yeah.
can't see it from what you spent in 2014. Are you going to spend that in 2015?
Yeah, that's probably safe to say you could probably trim that to 6,000. We added 3 tablets with the cards, so, yeah.
So we'll reduce that to 6,
6 from what?
7,900.
Okay, that's the one I had
Yep.
checked off. So that's is that 1,900? Am I doing it right?
Yep.
Anything else while you're on a roll?
That's what I had.
Counselor Wright?
Yeah, Rick, a quick question. For medical supplies, do we get reimbursed for that at all?
We,
I mean, I know we get for transport, we get reimbursed. Is that broken down at all on?
we do get funds back through the fees collected for the ambulance.
Okay, now, would that go back, what category? That go into the medical supplies, that goes into the ambulance?
It goes into the ambulance
Okay,
receipts.
receipts, okay.
We used to be able to do a lot of shopping at the hospitals, per se. And, they've kind of come down, now we have to buy it online, have it shipped, and
I love this job. I just love this job.
just being honest.
No, it's good. It's great. That's why I love it. It's just great. Beautiful. You good?
Yes.
If we wait a few more minutes, we'll learn something else. Counselor Nazaro.
We walk that fine line.
The line on equipment purchase, so going back to actuals, we generally had put about 20 in it, and you would spend about 20. I don't know what you spent in 13. Do you know what you spent in 13?
13, he spent 20.
20. So you basically even spent around 20. We bumped it to 25 last year. Can't remember why.
To let me buy a portable.
Till you buy a portable.
I'm trying to buy some portables
All right.
and,
So is
and keep up with the gear replacement. The bunker gear can only be every 10 years, you have to replace it.
Right.
Period. So we try to do 5 sets a year, talking $2,400 a set.
So you asked for 42, and it got bumped down to 25 again. I'm not saying raise it to 42. I'm saying, is the 25, are you going to be able to stay on your replacement cycle?
We will with the bunker gear, but not the portables. And I know we threw it into the CIP, and I don't recall what we
That's
funded
what I
it
was going to
at.
ask.
Yeah.
Do you use CIP for that?
We put it in there, I just don't know where it ended up.
Contribution, capital reserve.
It doesn't matter, so from a capital reserve fund, it doesn't matter if the money went in for it.
Yeah.
The money is in the capital reserve fund right now to cover it. So there's money there to cover it. It's just going to, now you have to keep putting a little bit in to build it back up for the next time you need to buy the portables.
Fire
So-
is 277,000.
Yeah, there's more than enough in there to cover the purchase of the portables. Right?
But there's a replacement apparatus in there too. So we haven't been funding the CIP to where we should be to replace portables, equipment, and apparatus. That's what I'm telling you.
When you say apparatus, you mean vehicle?
Vehicle.
Yes,
People think it's.
yes. The big.
Because we
red
just started doing the equipment through it, right?
Just started doing that.
Just started that, like
Just
last
started
year.
doing that. Would you give me 50 this year?
Yes.
How much of that is going to the vehicle? or the apparatus?
We don't have, when the vehicle's up for replacement, there won't be enough in the account to buy the vehicle.
Even if you consistently fund it at this level?
At 50,000, there still won't be enough.
It was, the CIP committee recommended 132,000.
Okay.
The last few years we have, and we keep putting just 50 in, I believe. If you look back through the years, we've just been giving it 50 for fire.
Okay.
And that was before we even had the equipment like the portables and
Right.
other items. Our air packs can't be flow tested in 3 more years. That's a $165,000 purchase. It's in the CIP, but funds won't be there. We can't flow test them again. We got 3 more years.
So that's a conversation when we get to the CIP. Thanks, Chief.
Councilor Weinstein?
I have a question about equipment maintenance. So, in 13, the budget was 14.5. Do you know what we spent in 13?
1 second. 13.
17,
Thank you.
17,000.
So, all right, so we spent 17. And then the next year, we reduced the budget to 12.5, but you spent 14.3. This year, 12.5, you've already spent 8, and then it's 12.5 again? Does that
It's just,
work?
it's, what that is it's the hose testing, it's flow testing, it's the air testing, it's ladder testing, pump testing, it's all
Testing.
testing to certify the equipment that it's safe for everyone to use. That's what this really is. Every now and then, there is something that breaks on something and they have to repair it, but the bulk of that equipment, maintenance is testing.
But consistently, it's underfunded.
That's a safe statement.
Okay.
I requested 15,000, just to get me up near my actual, but
Can you live with what you have, do you think?
we've been living with it, so
So you can probably live with it.
we all have to live with it.
So this is a small request, but if you look at mutual aid contract,
Yes.
it looks like we're always budgeting 1,200 and we don't spend much. We spend 600, we spend 300, and we spend 220 or whatever. Could you knock the 1,200 down to 6, so we're to 2,500? Because the most you've spent in the last, at least the
Yeah.
best I can deduce, I don't know what you did. What was the actual in 13? I don't have it here.
What-
200.
So you've spent and I'm not picking Rick, I'm just saying, we spent 213, we spent 314. I don't know what we're gonna spend in 15, but we're at 220 or whatever.
Yeah, and what
Could that be 600?
Yeah, let me
Sure.
explain. Real quick, this is, if we couldn't cover a medical and some outside agency came in and it was a self-pay, we'll pay that bill for them. That's what this line item's used for. And this just shows that, I guess, people have insurance now and we're doing a better job covering our calls, so.
So can we make it 600?
Yeah, I won't have any heartache with that.
I mean, it's not a lot, but it,
That's minus 2.5K for the
well, it's 2,500 instead of 19.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Just had a better ring to it.
I guess if you look historically, we've been okay, so.
Huh?
Historically, we've been okay.
Yeah, well, that's why I brought it, it's funny, you ended up enough 600s and you got thousands. Is there anything else here, Rick, that is diesel fuel, is it balanced off?
Diesel went up 3 cents for us.
So it's still
3
going
cents?
up.
Went up 3 cents for us.
Okay.
Gasoline's come down, but diesel went up.
Gasoline is down, and gas actual was 12.41, and you're asking for 1,600. And so far, unless I'm not reading this right, we spent $162. Could that be right? That's what it says. Maybe
The
it-
actual expense in fiscal year 15.
The
That
system
sounded so ominous, Mal.
It is. The system that we use to track the gasoline, which he has a $12,000 line item in his budget, failed in July, okay? We have a manual system.
So you don't really know what the number is.
I have no idea.
But before that, all I'm saying is if you look before that, you know, we've been a little bit under, and I'm just wondering, you know, with gas dropping, I know it can go up, I get all that. I'm just wondering, you know, is there anything there?
Gasoline in 13 was over. It was budgeted 8, it came in about 1,100.
Okay. So the most we've spent in the last few years is how much? 1,100?
No, 12.
1,200? I mean, could we make it 12?
Yeah, because I mean, it's one of those ones, if we have to spend it, we have to spend it. We can't.
Yeah, well, you know what, at this point, I'm just trying to find anything that's reasonable without making, that's why I'm asking. I mean, if it, you know, I think it's been consistent over the last few
We'll do
years.
1,200.
You know, it's almost $500. But I'm trying to stay under 5. But I'm trying to stay to what it's been. And I know gas is down quite a bit right now, so. Anyway. Counselor Weinstein?
No.
Oh, sorry. Counselor Wright?
Rick, quick
So
question.
that's 400.
This is, in
400 off.
fiscal year 2015, you proposed $65,000 for equipment purchases.
Where are you? I'm sorry.
I said, fiscal year 2015,
Yeah.
it was requested $65,000 for equipment purchases. And of course, that was cut down, and you're before us now with $42,000 in equipment purchases. Are you just getting tired of coming before us, or? And I mean, it just seems like there's a big discrepancy.
No, I just was trying to get something on the portables.
Yeah.
There's no grants coming for us on those, like,
Now, when you talk
last time when we
portables,
got
what's a portable? Oh, your radios?
the handheld radio
Yeah,
that the
okay.
guys use.
Yeah.
They're really expensive. They're $4,900 a pop, so they're not,
Times.
How many do you
How
have?
many do you need?
every person needs to have a portable that goes in a building.
And you're gonna, if you had a, so how many would,
How many do we have?
how many,
We have 42, I believe.
and now are they all due to be replaced at the
We
same
got them
time?
through a grant through the state back when we got them, so we got them all at the same time.
75.
2003, 2002,
Do we have,
42 at how much each?
2,900?
they're 4,900.
42 at, that's like 200 grand worth of radios, wow.
Yeah, so I was trying to buy a couple.
how many do we put in a building, people do we put in a building at one time?
It depends what's going on,
Well, at the most.
you know what I mean?
What's the most people?
Well, there's 6 people on an apparatus, on a piece of apparatus. They all have to have radio.
But in effect, everyone on the
Question.
scene.
Yeah, how does
would
it
be
work?
there.
Wait a minute. Question for you. City of Portsmouth, 4 firefighters on a vehicle. So there's 4 pieces of equipment, radios. We're running 6 on a piece?
We have 6 seats. I mean, there's not 6 people in the truck every single time.
No, I understand.
the Truck goes out.
Does each firefighter have to have their own radio?
Yes.
Theoretically, if
If they
they're
got
in
a call
building
for a
and they-
Mayday, they got to be able to call for help.
Right.
So me and you go in together
But
and we
what
get
I'm,
something.
what I'm saying is you have a full-time department has less radios.
Portsmouth don't have less radios.
I'm not saying the city of Portsmouth, but say if we had a full-time, the town I was in before had a full-time fire department, had 3 on a shift. I think we had 12 firefighters. So we had 12 radios. And you have 42 for volunteers.
Is that the rub, though? Do your volunteers, because they're not sitting in an apartment jumping on a truck with a radio? They
Right.
have the radios at home,
They have
correct?
their radios at home.
Okay, that's the
That's got a ton of
question.
Volunteers, you're only
Right,
gonna
that's
get.
right.
They don't go, they don't go to the
Right.
station
They don't
first,
go to the
that's my
station, They're not
question.
sleeping
Okay.
there, they need to leave their house with it.
Thank you.
Realizing this is a numb question, couldn't the radios be on the fire truck or be provided once they get to the destination? Do they
That's
have
how they
to?
hear that there's a fire.
Some of them, it's their pager too.
Oh, well, okay.
You can put the portable on page,
Get that.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
So they have those all the time?
Some people have the pager, some people have the portable.
Wow.
they're ridiculously expensive now, but you gotta have them. And the minute you put fire or EMS in front of anything, it's twice as much as, you know what I mean? It's just the nature, it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I'm not looking to, take anybody and put their life in danger. Councilor Weinstein?
I have another question about actuals and where we're at with the budget now. And I don't want to be the person to keep taking the budget in the other direction or asking these questions, but for training and staff development, which I think is probably, especially with your department, a pretty important part of the job. In 13 it was 17, in 14 it was 18, we spent 15. This year it's 14, but we're reducing it to 12.5. Is that safe? I mean, I guess that's my question.
We'll probably go over, but people have to research.
We'll be trained.
We have to train, we have to keep our hours, we have to go to so many classes a year. And every 2 years, you have to renew your licenses and stuff. And we pay for that stuff, it's expensive.
And Council, the actuals in 13, we budgeted 7, we spent 9,500. We budgeted 18, we spent 15. We budgeted 14, we're at 5 now, so the burn rate's not quite at what was budgeted. So, but we.
But it's pretty close.
But we
It
spent
is.
15 in 14 and budgeting 12. I just want to make sure people are.
Yeah, and they will get trained, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else? So are we up to the grand total of 1,019?
The reduction, the new budget is $334,118, so a decrease of 0.48%.
Okay, you're keeping track of all this, obviously.
Yeah, that's right.
Next.
Next, Town Council,
Let's cut all this
page
out.
27.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Have a good night.
See ya.
What is contingency grant proposed by our department head, negated by
proposed
the
by-
administrator?
That was proposed by the finance director, and it's, whenever you guys go and tell me to spend money, but you don't have the money to spend, we needed some place to get it, so we wanted to have a contingency fund there. Plain and simple. So I took it out. We will find it somewhere. Because there's many times throughout the year you'll say, hey, Steve, go do this, and you don't have it in your budget, so I have to find it.
Well, that's what all those little subscriptions and the this, that's
Right.
where all that is. So, I mean, I kind of like the idea, honestly, and I don't know if we could, look into it down the road, that Councilor Nazaro brought up last time about, just, not that there's any malice here, so take it as intended. Get rid of any of the float stuff and just have a contingency dollar amount, put it in that fund and get to zero-based budgeting.
And I'd love to, but the law doesn't allow us to do it the way you want to.
I'd really like to get educated on what the options would be, because it would sure make me feel a lot better about the way we do things.
The option at this point in time is this: you can have the operating budget as proposed. If we got down to zero base with no estimates, if you did everything to the price, you'd still have to put in a separate warrant article, a contingency fund. So if the operating budget passed and there was no contingency fund, you could only expend exactly what we had. So, for example, last year and this year when we wanted to do consulting with economic development, I would have no money to do that because we couldn't find it.
Only if the warrant didn't pass.
Correct.
So that's the stumbling block theoretically in this whole thing.
If they allowed us to do it in our operating budget, that'd been a whole different ballgame. But when we went to talk with them last year, they said, no, it has to be
Why
separate.
couldn't it be a line item like every other?
State
damn
law
thing?
doesn't allow us.
Everything else has a line item.
State law doesn't allow us.
State law
So why don't we just
requires it.
call it something else that is allowed?
You can't.
It's still contingency.
still a
So it's okay to jack up stuff we're not using, but it's not okay to
You have
call.
to, you have to have
Makes
a
no
purpose.
sense.
That's
Just doesn't
the
make
law.
sense. Well, no, okay.
But it's the law. We have to follow the law.
No, all I'm saying is we could have it.
That'd be a good thing.
We could call it a name of something that did have a purpose, And I'm not suggesting, it's.
Fraud or anything.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. And I'm not saying it's fraud. I'm saying the state law does not allow for that in budgeting. And
Well, why wouldn't
DRA,
you, I'm sorry.
DRA comes in and looks at it and would say, we can't allow that expenditure because it has to be appropriated through a warrant article.
Counselor Weinstein and then Nazaro.
So how is this line item?
That's
that
my
you-
question.
Because I can
Next.
justify by saying the council annually spends $5,000 on consulting services, on buying food for your meetings that you have on Saturdays, but we didn't do this year. Those kind of items.
Or breakfast.
Or breakfast.
I know.
But you notice, notice I put 0, because you guys don't do it. But I have to have a justification, or DRA will say it was not appropriated correctly.
Seems to me we should be able to deal with that, but
And-
that's okay.
And trust me, I argued with DRA last year saying, look, we're a council form, we're not town meeting form, we should be allowed to do this. Much like our wonderful capital reserve funds that are all gonna be in warrant articles, they said no. It doesn't allow us in the charter, it doesn't allow us in state law to do that.
But if you, we don't have to belabor this because we have other things to deal with, but if we called it contingency grants, under contingency in theory could be dealing with the things that come up that may be underfunded and you need to find the money.
No, that's exactly what the law defines it as, you can't do. It has to be separate for that reason. What we're also saying with grants is if we need a match somewhere, we can withdraw from there. You can do that, but I can't say that it's for it's an over expenditure, another line item. DRA does not allow that.
All right.
We tried last year
Let's
for,
have a conversation with the RA.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder at the end of the day what the net result would be. I really do. I wonder if we really did that, it would certainly take pressure off, I think department heads having to have where am I gonna find this? I mean, I don't know what the end result would be. I guess we'd have to try it to really see what the net
Right.
is, but it certainly, to me, would be a lot cleaner than some of this stuff, because this kind of gets surreal at times. Yeah.
We would be coming to you an awful lot saying, we have an over expenditure, can you grant us authority? So you would see more activity before this board.
That wouldn't bother me,
Okay.
personally.
All
I
right.
think it would keep us, apprised of things, and I think then the following year, we would probably make adjustments, or, it's not like this is a way to, hurt a department from my standpoint. It's more, I'm trying to think of the right word, it's more accurate-based budgeting is what I think.
and that's
I'm
why,
looking
and
for.
that's why the state law says it's an estimate of expenditures, not an actual of expenditures in the coming year. It's because they don't give us the authority. The contingency law just came into effect last year. So it's not like it's been an old law either.
Councilor Weinstein, will you?
I'm done.
She asked the questions I wanted to ask, and we got it already.
So you guys are up $250.
Councilor Pike?
What is the part-time?
You're recording secretary?
Okay. I was just wondering, in 2014, we underspent that?
Yeah. You did.
Okay.
Training was not, general supplies. So what's our, just so I must be,
General supplies.
what's our gross spending at our level? Where are we at, council?
$19,300.
Okay. I'm just curious, the department had to propose 24, which obviously,
Not me.
oh, that was Matt? Okay.
And you were-
So we're basically, flat, pretty much.
The $250 for the general supplies, stuff
What
you
is,
made.
what is that?
Again, name plaques that we have to replace every year recently. Those kind of items.
Well,
We can zero that out. I mean,
what's it gonna save? Any,
$250.
okay? If we're not gonna, well, where would we get the, I mean, you know, it's not a
Oh,
lot
it's
of
hard.
money. It's
Comes
not a
in-
lot of money. yeah.
Turn the page, it'll come out of that budget.
What is that, out of the?
The town
admin-
administrator.
Is that administrator salary?
Yeah.
Is that where we are next?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 1%
Where are
is
we
just,
at? Okay.
yeah, it's mainly the increase, the distribution of the merit pay, not for myself.
Distribution of the merit pay,
Merit pool, the end of last year.
yeah.
In the town administrator's budget?
Actually, no, it's full-time, it's level.
Yeah.
Because what you see is the actual expenditures when we did distribute it last year. We didn't, there's no increase in merit. I mean,
We just-
Merit pays in the human resources.
no, what I'm saying is, but when we distribute the merit pay from last year, that $50,000, if you look at that, it's zeroed at the actual expenditure at the end of the year. Because there's no, what you do is when you give out the raises, you distribute it to line items.
What page are we on?
You're on page
They're 28?
28.
So
29,394 and it's level funded from last year but I misspoke on something because I was looking at the 131. It's what you, and I just, maybe it's a good way to explain it for every department. When we get to the HR one, you're gonna have the merit pool. When we distribute the merit pool to show what the actual costs are in each department for salaries, we reallocate the funds from that 50 to each line item,
Got it.
so.
Hey, Steve, just for our knowledge, where would be, like, if you had to go on a training or something, or
Training.
you went to Virginia or whatever?
Training.
Is that under training?
Yeah.
So training, staff development, is that what it is?
Yep.
So it was about $3,000, or the actual was 2136?
Yep, for 14.
Did I read that right?
Yep.
Okay.
And that was also the conference in my contract was closed. It was in Boston. And also the State Municipal Managers Association didn't have a conference since it was in Boston.
Let us know when they're gonna go to Hawaii.
Not even on the list.
Cleveland, Ohio's next.
I think it's usually Cleveland or Toronto or.
Anybody, oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Nazaro?
What is the increase in dues and subscriptions?
Annually, when my dues to the ICMA has to reflect my salary and my fringe benefits and what it's actually worth, so there's some increase there. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's also the dues for the municipal association in there. So mainly that's municipal association dues. My dues come to about $700.
So did municipal association get more expensive?
Yes.
How much?
I believe they're going up about 1 to 2%. It hasn't been set yet. One of the big reasons is previously they were receiving funds from the Health Trust and PLT, Property Liability Trust. That stopped. So their rates had to go up.
So it went from 7, is that the right line, dues and subscriptions, or?
1 to 2%.
8,000 to 10,000.
Well, I'm
1
just
to
look-
2% is only 160 bucks.
25%.
Yeah, that's,
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
If you want to reduce it to 9, that's fine. We can go down to 9. We just don't know the rates yet. So we can go to 9.
9.
We're safe.
I know this is a crazy question, but why is it so expensive?
The municipal association?
Well, for every person to, in other words, it's basically 9, 10 grand.
It's for the town. The town's the member.
And exactly, what do we get?
You have training.
Yeah.
You've got legal advice when you call up. You have advocacy. You have.
Have we used any of that,
Oh
really?
yeah, we do it all the time. All
Do we?
those budget books that we hand out. Those we had the attorneys come to the charter, and we also had them before come to other discussions that we've had. Budget committees request them to come in for training, so they've come quite often. And some councils actually go to the training.
Right, I went last year.
Yeah.
thought I'd ask.
They're the ones who helped us when the state wanted to take over the town registration.
Exactly.
They helped us a lot on
Yep.
that, yeah.
They did all the retirement
That
fighting.
was a huge win for us.
Right.
For all towns.
Yep, they did the fighting for the retirement system,
Yeah.
so we try to get some more representation there. Any bills that come up for the municipal, instead of every town hiring a lot, basically lobbyists, we pool together
that's
and
how
they hire.
lobbyists
It-
essentially
There
work.
are lobbyists.
No other questions? Okay.
Finance, next page.
Okay. There we can cut.
It's actually, it's a 0.9% increase, mainly increase in audit fees. This is the third year for that current auditor, will be third?
Yeah, the 16 year will be the third year.
Yeah. So we'll be going out to RFP again at the end of that, because you're allowed a 3-year extension.
We allow for a 3-year extension, but we could go out for an RFP.
Yeah.
So full-time salaries is about 165 was last year. Councilor Nazaro.
What's the advertising? What are we
Right,
advertising?
advertising is going to be new this year because of the procurement. I've been taking over all the advertising for all the public notices for any RFPs that are going to go out there. Last year, I blew his line item because I threw out everything through his office. So this year, we're breaking it out, first year.
So this is the first year we're putting an advertising line in?
Yes.
Well, we have a budget for last year in here.
And we overexpended it.
The 2,000?
I'm
No,
sorry.
2,000 we haven't even.
I'm sorry,
we haven't-
15 is the first year.
15 is the first year. This is the first year.
Yes,
Okay.
and then 16 will be the second year.
So we have no data to go on.
None.
Thank you.
And this is to follow the procurement policy that we have, that we need to advertise for bids.
Well, I'm all about that saves money.
Yeah.
Councilor Weinstein.
The equipment maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious what that is. Like, it was 600 and then jumped this
Yeah.
year to 2,600? And is
Yeah.
that for something in particular?
Yes. All right. There's several things that are in play here. The first one is the 600 really paid for the lease on one of our copiers. We are now switching over to a larger machine, and it's more of a printer than it is a copier. So the 2,000 additional in there is to purchase the copier along with the water and sewer department. Actually, your tax bills are being printed off of it tonight. And instead of taking 3 hours, it's taking 50 minutes. Okay? And then we also had, I shared the cost of a new computer purchase in there, because we had a couple computers that failed, or one computer that failed out of the cycle, so I had to kick in a little bit for that as well.
We purchased that copy or lease?
We purchased it, it's used. It's really a printer that wants to be a copier.
It should be who it is.
It's
And our copier wants to be a printer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an HP printer.
Matt, at one time, you did mention about a new finance program.
Yes.
Software.
Yes.
Any, a little bit about that, or besides being very expensive?
Yeah. I'm going to try to start that this year, the process on that. That's going to be like a 2-year process. And the cost really depends upon the system that you purchase. I don't want to be the person to pick a system and force it on people. I'm going to try to get a team of people to come in and just, like users to try to pick it for the town.
And we're also looking at a system to address a lot of the things that you were mentioning on Saturday for recording stuff with mileage, stuff with equipment costs, those kind of things. I want to make sure we have a system that's all rolled in and not have one system that can't talk to the other system. Schedule of properties and then have the depreciation of that during the, just by hitting a button.
Yeah.
And they're out there, but we want to make sure they all work together.
The systems that are out there, there's one that's got a really good online module. If you want to see any of the data that the town has, you go on the town's website and query the financial system. And it may include copies of invoices. So that's one system that's out there. another system that's out there. We can scan in all the invoices and pay our bills through ACH. We can't do that right now. So it's going to cost money, I think, to load the system with data. With that copier or that printer purchase upstairs is the kind of the beginning of that. Now let's quickly talk about the cost. Some of these systems, one of them came in and said, okay, you're not going to pay anything up front, but your annual maintenance fee is going to be higher than what you currently pay. Another system is going to be like $200,000-$300,000 up front. So it really runs a wide spectrum.
Councilor Weinstein? That was yours? Okay. The only one I had to ask, could you just, I mean, because it was, you had mentioned that you were trying to, on the full-time salary, in your comments that were distributed before, you had said that, that we have some comment about trying to bring that up to market value.
Yeah.
And then it was brought back down. You want to make any comments about that?
Historically, the finance director's position has been budgeted at $80,000. Last year, it was bumped down to $70,000. I had to cut the number of hours I was here to fit within the budget. All right. If I were not here, you would still be paying $75,000 to $80,000, or you want to be able to have the ability to hire someone with skills.
Okay. But currently, you're saying 70 to 80, but we expend, 165 is what we expend
Yes.
With two other employees.
with 2 other employees. That's-
Actually,
Yeah.
now, the 163 will be a third because the treasurer's no longer their elected official. They're appointed, so we reclassified that from the elected to the appointed.
Okay. But you're comfortable with the 163 that you put in there? Okay.
Where are we?
Wrapping up finance.
We've heard a lot about copiers.
Copiers and software programs. So,
Are we eliminating copiers?
nope. The next is HR, which is 31. Human Resources, which is the benefits and all the fun stuff. And I'll have Matt go over this and explain.
Holy moly.
Okay.
FICA was...
You have a question on FICA?
Well, just go through all of them.
Go ahead.
All right. FICA, Medicare, New Hampshire retirement, and workers' compensation and are all based upon salaries, okay? So those are all based upon a percentage of the employees that we currently have. It also includes overtime times those same percentages. So those are pretty much fixed. We go into health insurance. I put a 5% increase over the prior year. Our rates came in at 8.5%. So, but we're going to try to hold it at 5%.
That's the guaranteed maximum rate increase. That's not the actual rate increase.
So we don't know exactly what
Right.
that's going to be, okay.
Workers' compensation, you'll notice that there's a little blip in the budget. In fiscal year 14, at the end of fiscal year 14, we switched carriers from PLT to Primex. And what we did, we bought an 18-month contract so that we can change it from a calendar year basis to a fiscal year basis. So in fiscal year 15, you kind of paid for the last 6 months of that contract. In fiscal year 16, however, we're up to a full year again.
Where are you on this, Matt, there?
I'm
please?
sorry, workers' compensation. So the budget
Okay.
that's proposed right now is $113,990.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. The merit pay, which is new in fiscal year 14, we carried it into 15. However, we're reducing the amount requested to $35,000 in 16. Longevity is calculated based upon a list of employees and when they were hired. That is a fixed number. And property liability is down as compared to some of the prior years, primarily because we switched to Primex.
Well, wait a minute. Am I reading this wrong? Property liability shows 68 was 2014, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, but it jumped up to 98,015, and I believe that their quote was over 100,000 for the remainder of 15.
Right, the Property Liability Trust, formerly LGC, their quote for 2015, I believe, was $122,000. And the other issue there is they actually may not even be there.
So that jumped up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
Yeah, they weren't, it wasn't, and if I remember correctly, it wasn't being budgeted correctly. Some of the numbers were being moved around.
Yes.
Like, because what they did was you bundle workers' comp, property liability into one package. So probably some of the workers' comp money was covering property liability and not vice versa, because it was so much lower.
Matt, can I, my light's
Yeah,
on,
go ahead.
Gary.
Go ahead.
On, workers' comp, how many employees full-time do we have here?
Full-time, it was, I think it's either 51 or 52.
Do we have we had a lot of claims that makes it high? Or is it, because people, there's 50 at my company, and we're paying substantially less. I know it's based on partly salary and
You
everything.
got DPW, you had a couple
It's
of
right.
injuries.
Yeah,
It's also the type of employment. DPW is a big one that bumps up your thing. Police is a huge one that bumps up your rates.
Fire.
And fire is the biggest. Even though they're called firefighters and it's 2 full-times, that is a huge increase, because if they get, they're going into,
So this has nothing to do with the claims, it's just the
No.
insurance
No.
itself.
exactly.
Well, we had a pretty good claim
I
a
mean,
few years
your
ago.
few years
insurance
ago.
will go up when you have claims.
Yes.
yeah. But
Yeah.
we have,
Sometimes.
recently we haven't, we've been doing training, in-house safety training, having our insurance carrier come out, teach about, slips and falls and preventing, they go through and do a safety tour to find out what's wrong in the buildings and those kind of items. I drive around, make sure people wearing their vests and those kind of things, and I'll slam them for that. And actually, we'll probably have a savings now with the wireless situation,
Yeah.
that we've banned wireless, so,
Meaning with the phones.
yeah.
Just on that note, though, it would be interesting to see what other towns have for similar, people. Because the mod rate usually goes up, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you have a bad accident or something,
Mhm.
you get hit hard. I mean, one year I went from 45,000 to 70
Mm-hmm.
because somebody fell.
Mhm.
And so you get hit for like 2 or 3 years, and then it sort of, levels off. And they do have, we're out there, the guys are out there in fairly dangerous situations at times where
Yep.
they can have a...
And just a reminder, for us, for insurance, it's extremely difficult for municipalities to be insured.
Extremely difficult what?
To be insured. These actually uninsured, insurance is, we call them insurance, but they're pools. We pool our money with other municipalities and withdraw when we need it. They run it like an insurance company, but it's not a traditional insurance
So
company.
we self-insuring in this? Is it we
We're in
basically
a pool.
self-insure?
So it's a way that we all pool together with the other municipalities. The largest 2 in the state aren't in it because they can self-insure. That's in Nashua. What happened was, in the mid to late 80s, insurance companies came in and basically said, we're not insurance municipalities anymore. It's too much of a risk for us, we're cutting the lines. So what the first group was the Municipal Association came in and said, okay, we'll work to start a pool. And it was Portsmouth and Lebanon were the 2 first ones, and it was property liability at first. And then they jumped on with workers' comp because of the number of injuries there as well. So that's why there's really, when you go out to bid for this, you only have 2 pools. And most states have 1.
Actually, the number, when you think about it, is not as high as it could be.
Right, and I mean, in liability is also, every time, somebody slips and falls on the sidewalk, they cover that. There's if any lawsuits with that, they cover that.
Meaning pedestrians
Yeah.
having nothing to do with our
Not
employees.
out
Right.
of workman's
Oh, yeah.
comp.
No, that's out of property liability. Those two are really closely tied together, because usually those 2 bid together to get the best rates. That's why I sort of mix the 2, but.
How come, he might have explained that, but am I reading, the lines sometimes are tough to line up, but
Yep.
Looks like FICA actual went from 113 to 185, Matt? Is that right?
Top line. Didn't you audit FICA this
How
year?
could,
Yeah.
how could it be so much of a delta?
Mm.
I mean, it was 117 was the budget in,
Big jump was last year.
We jumped last year. What was the jump last year? Yeah.
Yeah, 113 to 172.
it still seems like it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall.
You sure that?
Is it an item we can reduce?
Can I look at it a little bit while?
Yeah, I mean.
So Matt, just explain, because the we basically kept the same amount of employees in general, right? In general, I mean, we're not,
This is full and part-time employees.
but it's not like we added 20 people or
No,
something.
no.
So, if the actual for last year was 113,000, and this year, so far, it's 26, we budgeted 172, I'm just asking that.
No,
First of all, why did we go from 111 to 170 in the budget for 15? Was there, I mean, is something, I haven't noticed those kinds of changes at the store. Is something going on here? Hey, wait, one thing, Matt, 26,555 is actual through, I'm guessing, September?
September
Yes.
30.
So that's June,
First
July, August, September, 4 months, right?
No, July, it's first quarter.
July 1.
July, August,
July 1.
September.
Yep.
3, okay, so 1 quarter. So if you took, I don't know if it's do it this way,
32.
but if you took 26 times 4, it's basically a little over 100 grand, which is closer to what we did in 14. So why are we at 185? Because that would,
You-
you know, if we could reduce that by 80, that'd be nice.
And you said last year, didn't you audit FICA, there was an under? Looking.
Yeah, I don't remember. Hold on.
That
Let me,
doesn't even make sense.
do you want to move on to something and I'll?
I got it, we gotta do something, because you got the budget here. I mean, we can go to the other departments, we can go to code enforcement and come back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not,
No, I
don't
don't
want to leave
disagree.
the
I'd rather have a
town
question.
in trouble, but if you took, Matt, these numbers usually stay consistent. They don't usually bounce around throughout the year, right? In
Agreed.
general.
Yeah.
So if you took 26,555 and multiplied it by 4,
Oh, no, I agree with you. I see where you're coming from. So let me,
But- And that was the, I mean, why didn't we catch it last year? I mean,
Right, that's why I thought there was an audit that you completed, that it was there was some underfunding of it, or it was coming from somewhere else. I'm saying that to try to remind him, not to,
I know, listen, I don't have a.
because that would've stuck out to all
But
of
all
us
these,
last year.
what was
This-
the actual in 13, Matt? Dan,
13?
you have
I've got it.
13 there.
109.
So
it's still on-
you're basically 109, 113. This year, we're on target to be, even if you said 30,000 at 120, less about 10 grand, so you're about 110.
You're on.
So that number
it's
should be-
106.
all right.
Yeah,
4 times that is 106. That's-
2012 was 114.
Right.
so I mean, you're really looking at about $1, even if you said $1.15, you should be in the ballpark.
But you had, I mean, for everybody's here, there was a reason last year, because none of us would have all let that go through with that
Right.
increase.
My notes, rec, DPW.
Oh, that's it.
What is it?
The Director of Public Works is now in the general
Yeah.
fund budget 100% and out of the revolving, so there's some FICA there, not 80,000, but
Yeah.
there is some there.
well, there's also FICA there for the finance director's position if you were to hire an employee.
Recreation,
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
oh,
whoa.
we didn't say that, we're not doing that, don't,
Say that
No,
again.
but it's in the budget.
he has it in case of he put in a number in case that we left from contracted to an employee for finance director. Yeah.
I won't
It's,
say.
but I mean, again, that's not a lot,
No.
Okay.
but there's still,
So what should that number be then, really? Because it sounds like there are.
115.
that's what I need to know.
Well, we had a discussion last year,
Right,
and the notes here are because of rec and DPW.
yeah. But Rec would have
But it
drawn.
still doesn't make that much up.
Rec would have withdrawn it because we started a revolving
Revolving
fund.
yep.
Do you have notes for why you did it last year?
I have the spreadsheet in front of me for last year, and it ties out with the number that's presented in the budget. So,
Then,
Question is why?
right, why is it? Why don't we go to the other ones and you find the answer
Yeah.
quickly?
Because that would be a nice savings.
Yeah. Why don't we go to code enforcement?
I have a question.
Oops, sorry.
Dwarf
Sorry.
all the others put together.
I just have a question about the merit pool.
Yes.
I know that it gets zeroed out because, so we won't see the actuals here, but I'm just curious. So we budgeted 50, and this year 35. What did we use?
We used 35.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I reduced it.
In 14.
Right. The reason why we didn't do it last year, the budget came in before we distributed it, so we weren't sure we were going to be. So.
Well, rarely am I happy during budget. But,
Yeah,
that's a big number.
we need something there.
And I don't mind waiting if you got a legitimate thing, but,
I've got
historically, in all fairness, historically, it's been consistently at that number, and if you take this year, which I think is germane, and you just take 26,555, then we're, like Dale said, at 106, what was it,
It's like 106 and change.
so I mean, even if you said, 110 or I don't really,
120.
all right.
let's not get goofy.
In fiscal year 13, I believe that we had a big turnover in the police department. Fiscal year 14, we also had some turnover in the DPW and in the tax collector's office, which would be a drop.
But but it's 7% of a salary. It's not, that's like a salary
Yeah.
for a drop. I mean, we didn't have that big of a turnover.
All right. If you guys want to cut it, that's fine, but I do have my spreadsheet that backs it up. That's
But we
all.
don't know why your spreadsheet backs it up.
What do you mean you don't know? My spreadsheet is each individual salary times the 6.2% rate for FICA alone.
So if we had,
So,
Then why wasn't it, that makes no sense, though.
what do you mean, the number for FICA for this year?
In other words, if you take the 26,555 and multiply it by 4,
I understand.
yeah, it's not,
Because, you had some turnover, but you're looking at, what, almost a third. It approaches a third, not quite, but a third above what, certainly 25% above expenses anyway, what you've been spending.
Right.
Really, no, it's more than a third over. That's like
I understand.
35% over, and that turnover could not take 35% of the Social Security.
For the last 2 years, our payroll spreadsheet, we have a couple of people look at it to try to find and poke holes in it. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. If you wanna cut it and then take the chance that it's 1/4 of what the 4 times of what we're spending right now.
Is that usually the rule, Matt?
I'm sorry.
The first quarter, wouldn't the rule be, it usually gets divided? I mean, just as a general rule.
It depends. We don't have much in the way of activities going on. I mean, we have recreation going on that ends sometime in August.
Yeah.
All right, but then it dies down for the second.
The opposite. It's going to actually be
That's
lower.
going to help us, that's my point. That's
Okay.
going to make the number even lower. You're
And
going the
then
wrong.
go up for January through March for
Overtime.
snow removal, and then go right back up for recreation again.
But
The recreation.
those are constant expenses. It's not like we had something special here.
Are there many vacancies during this quarter? Are you missing,
No.
does this quarter represent any vacancies?
No, we've not had many vacancies.
No,
are we sure that's a quarter? Are we sure that these
That is a
actuals-
quarter.
Yeah.
Is it,
That's
for
a
the
quarter.
172,000, is that for 18 months, do you think?
no.
No, that's for a year?
Yeah.
Listen, at the end of the day, guys, if you look at the actuals for the last 3 years, they're all consistent with the
Right, if
number we're
FICA
talking
Medicaid-
about. It's not like, there's no big aberration here.
If FICA didn't go up now, FICA hasn't gone up.
I understand.
Went up last year.
Not, but did it, how much, like 10%? Was it?
Okay, FICA went up for 1 fiscal year.
So it's back down.
Yeah, it's back down.
don't you make it 115? And,
Because at least at 115, if you're at 130, we can find it, or, I mean,
If you're at 115, we'll have to make it work, so.
I mean, does
it's-
anybody else have any thoughts? I mean, I certainly don't think we should be budgeting a crazy number, and if there was some historical
yeah, I mean, I guess my question for Matt is, and I hate to be questioning it like this too, is if you had the spreadsheets for all the other employees for the years past, and it equals 115, and you did it this year and it equals 172, what happens?
No, it equals the budget. What I have is the salary for every single budget, and then there's a formula next to it that says, for FICA.
Then why was the year before so low? Then let's back it up the other way.
No, it only goes for fiscal 15 and 16.
But I'm asking though, why was, if you have everybody, we didn't add many people.
We gotta switch to name back.
I know. We subtracted individuals. We added the public works percentage.
All right, for fiscal 13 and 14, you had police.
But you didn't have
had
that many
turnovers.
vacancies. You always have turnovers.
I know, and then you also had turnovers in DPW and town clerk in fiscal 14.
But didn't they all drop a little bit?
But you had 6% on maybe 10 grand, 20 grand. That's not $80,000. I'm just saying. I'm trying. I'm trying to poke holes to make sure we don't underfund it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at 2016 to 2016 over 2014, that's a 60% increase in
Right.
the budgeted amount, but there's no
I hear what you're
sign of the
saying.
expected, there's nothing that,
If you guys feel comfortable with reducing
the
it, that's
burn.
fine. I have a spreadsheet that says otherwise. We'll have to go back and reevaluate it, so.
have to probe your.
I mean, we've already evaluated it. It's gone through,
You have to find a way to.
no, it's gone through 3 different people, so it's,
I know, but.
But you must have, Matt, listen, you're a lot brighter than I am. How come you didn't pick that up before? Like, didn't that jump out at you? I mean, you look at actuals, I'm assuming.
I'm going based upon how the process works in accumulating the data, okay?
So you don't do it quite the same way that we're doing it this way? Like, that number wouldn't jump out at you, because you're looking at that in a vacuum, so to speak. You're not looking at
No, I'm not looking at it in a vacuum. That would be completely false, okay? No, it's, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get down to a very detailed budget. So we have every single employee and everything all scheduled out.
No, I just saw lights turn off outside, so.
Yeah, I just want you to understand, I wasn't saying in a vacuum in a bad way. In other words, what I was trying to get to is maybe you weren't looking at what we expended in 14, and this wouldn't jump out at you the way
Hey, Matt,
maybe this.
can I show you my notes?
We don't,
Yeah.
Just, it may,
We can go to the
Yeah.
net code enforcement, and let him look into it.
it doesn't need to be done tonight either, we're not
Yeah,
solving this tonight.
we're running out of time.
Yeah, we don't want to,
You don't-
I
yeah.
want to come back Saturday.
November 15th is the deadline. And you have your council meeting next week, and I need to get your packets pulled together. Charter says you have to present a budget to the budget committee by the 15th of November.
Well, if something,
If something huge comes up, we can.
the budget
change it.
committee could always deal with
this was
it.
brought up last time.
But yeah, the question is why.
Well, he's looking at my notes. I
Yeah.
don't know if that helps.
But let's go to code enforcement and let him look into it.
What page?
Next page. It's a 0.79% increase.
Hold on a minute, let's,
If you can read those.
okay, code enforcement, page 32, where are we, 32? Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
General supplies is up. I know he wants to buy a new camera, some other stuff, so when he does his code enforcement part of it.
We don't have any other camera?
He needs a better camera than just the normal,
iPhone 6?
yeah. Training, he actually, I gotta give him credit, as a health officer, he's doing a lot more training, getting ready for the various items that we have, so.
So where's all the money? It's 37 in part-time salaries? Who's,
It's part-time is the wrong term, it should be shared salaries.
so who's in there with Mike?
That's his part, he shares a administrative assistant with the planning director.
I'm sorry, are you talking about
So-
Diane?
No, right.
Sue Jordan.
Sue
Oh,
Jordan,
Sue Jordan.
they share a person.
Okay. So is Sue the part-time?
She is.
And I'm just asking, is it the 37,915 her salary?
Part of her salary. She shared with the planning.
So is her salary 37,915 times 2?
Her salary there is, oh, I'm sorry, you know what? I flipped the 2. The code enforcement officer is actually the part-time individual. The full-time is
She's full-time.
full-time. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So she's making about 51 or 50,
Yep.
whatever, 52.
Yep.
And
He
he's
makes
making
37.
37, and just so we know, how many hours is that?
He's at
Oh,
25.
25 hours. Okay. Okay.
On the record type.
No,
hours.
it's,
Yeah,
I'm
he's
just
usually
trying to
longer.
understand it.
Yeah.
And you split Sue between the two of them?
Yep.
Okay. And that's where all the money is, guys,
Yep.
right? Pretty much?
He wants to do more training this year.
Yep.
I mean, the training's going from basically 300 to 1,000. Am I getting that right?
Yep. But he's also, I know he's held off on training because he doesn't have it in his budget.
Well, he had 500 last year and he spent 312.
He's spending 80 right now, and that was a quarter, so he'll be closer to 4. But like I said, he's not doing training. He's not taking classes because of the budget.
Okay. All I'm saying is last year he had 500, he spent 3.
Right. He didn't take classes that he could have signed up for.
Oh, because it would have pushed
He
him
would
over.
have pushed him over.
Okay. Does anybody have any?
No.
Okay. Next.
Next is welfare, next page. It's a reduction of 8.5%. This is, it reflects actuals.
Mostly from the red.
Yeah. I mean, just not, you gotta give him credit. I mean, if you look in 13, it was 60,000, now we're down 25.
I think, is it Heather?
Heather,
I think Heather does an amazing job.
Yep.
And that's another one the municipal helped us with when she spoke to us one other time about that.
Yeah.
About making it, the rules stricter and how to
Yeah.
get it and the guidelines, and they gave some input there.
Absolutely.
I know I'm missing something, Steve, so help me.
Yep.
The actual from last year, it shows here at 30,000.
Yep.
And now the actual is 59. What am I missing?
The budget is 59.
Yeah, so what am I missing? Why did it double?
This is one of those budgets that we don't know. You could have a bad year. If you look at the year before in 13, let me see, we had 10. So, I mean, if you wanted, and I'll tell you, this is one by law, no matter what, you could put $1,
You
I gotta pay it.
So, well, let's just look historically. What did we spend in 13?
10 in rent.
No,
Total.
Total, I'm sorry, 34,000.
34,000. Okay.
We're on track so far for, what is the, with the big months on that? Is there a seasonality?
Winter.
So the budget, I just want to get this just for 1 second. So the budget in 13 was 60, and we spent, what'd you say, 34?
34 for 13.
And we budgeted 60.
Yep.
And-
Actually, no, 13, we budget 113,000.
Did I?
13, yeah.
I'm looking at original budget, 60.
We're going to the
you're-
bottom
We were
line.
talking about the
Oh.
total, we were going to the bottom, just.
Oh, well, I'm just looking at rent.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
If you look at rent, what was the rent in 13?
60 was original, it got.
What was the actual?
Out, 10.
So we budgeted 60, guys, we spent 10. And then 14, we budgeted 30, and we spent
10.
50. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
10 again.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
11.
And
Both of
then-
them are 11.
And then 14, we budgeted 15, and we spent 10.
Right.
And now we're budgeting 30.
We're on track for 10 again.
Yeah.
So why don't we cut that to something that makes a little bit
12?
more, make more sense.
12?
Sure. 15? This is the one where, like, we don't
Yeah.
want to be caught.
Yeah.
No,
15 is, I think 15 is good.
All right.
10? No, just kidding, I'm joking.
Electricity, we could bring that down a little.
Where's electricity?
The next line down. Actual's been like 600, 800.
Yeah, so what do you want to do there?
Go 15?
Yeah. Probably even go 1,000, but if you want to go 15, because electricity's gone up.
Yeah.
So what are you going, 1,500?
Yeah. Heat's the one that's kind of, I got to keep somewhere in there, because if all of a sudden CAP runs out of fuel, if we have a really bad cold winter, we need to find it, that's where we have to go.
Are you saying we didn't spend anything last year?
We didn't, because we were able to send them to nonprofit agencies. But they're squeezing their monies now.
Could it be 2, or are we pushing it?
I think you're pushing it with that one. That one I wouldn't,
What did we spend in 13?
we didn't, because we sent them to nonprofit agencies.
Okay. Oh. So it's really like we don't know.
Right.
Do we know what the nonprofit agency spent?
We don't.
Because we budgeted in 13.9.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do, we did 8.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it looks here like it was budgeted 9.
8. You're down one way. That's medical.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry.
But this is the one, I would leave it at 25, because, and this is the charity usually of the oil companies, as well as like community action. Oil companies sometimes have a pool that they give out to help us, to assist people with. And I'm saying oil companies, I mean the local guys with the trucks, not the Exxon and.
So giving.
Yeah.
So is that 16.5 reduction?
I'm sorry?
Did we reduce that?
Yes.
Yes.
16.5? Okay. Are there any lights, any questions? Anything else that you can, food seems like it's about the same.
Actually, food is reduction of 500. You're looking at department head proposed, I proposed a reduction.
It's hard to line these up. We should, if they could put a line, it'd be a lot easier to read this.
I know the food bank just served, they had a record number of
Yeah.
families last week, so just.
We're
I just
very-
think that's.
we're very-
A lot of that-
I understand
Charitable.
going back to actuals here, but I feel like if we need a buffer anywhere, this is one of the spots we need a
Yep.
buffer.
Yep, but 38
All we need is
families in
one year
Newmarket
that a bunch of
last week.
people are hurting,
Yeah.
and we have to do that.
So what was the reduction, what is the current budget now that you're going to end up with?
$48,220. That's what the council's going to propose.
48?
48,220.
So it's down 11.5K from what it,
25.49% over previous year.
And in all fairness, the economy is a little bit better than it had been. I think a lot of this is in the past, not to, get too much into this, but I think some of the things that we were paying for were not necessarily on the grid. And so that's been adjusted. Heather's done a good job.
That's what Council Bentley mentioned about the tightening of the welfare law
Yeah, I mean, they used to-
regulations.
But all it
Cigarettes.
takes, though, is Heather came before us once, and it might not even have been this last cycle, but said a lot of them go from town to town, and you can get all of a sudden 7 move into
Absolutely.
town, and it goes way up, and then the next year none move into town, and they bump from place to place. So I agree, let's not get a little too silly here, because how many times can we go to Steve and say, find it?
Yeah.
And we're all waiting for a sunny day here, but there might be some rain.
Okay.
The next page, assessing, reduction of 3.41%. We are finding it to be very productive having the contracted assessors versus we had employees in the past. And we're actually increasing that contract to be able to have them in on 2 days versus 1. And
So they just keep rotating and doing X amount of
There's still-
properties a year?
they're doing a quarter of the town a year, and they're also in here doing what we used to hire an individual to be in here to answer assessing questions. And, the way I look at it is we're actually getting 4 people for almost the price of 1, because they've got a much bigger staff, and if they need more help for some reason, they can bring in additional people, but it doesn't impact our contract. So, I mean, some days when we have them here, there's 2 or 3 people working because of some assessing issue that they may have, but it doesn't impact us.
What was
So-
the actual, Steve, in 13?
Actual in 13
You
was
didn't have it.
60,000.
And that's when we had a person?
A part-time, part of a set full-time salary, a part-time salary, and we also had an individual who went out during the summer and did what this company's doing now.
And then this company came on in 14?
They
Or-
came on during 13, 14 was the first year they were here.
The only reason I'm asking is because 14, we budgeted 73 and we spent 53.
Let me think, wait a minute.
So I'm trying to figure out what.
No, they came in on 14, I'm sorry. They came in on 14 because,
Okay, so if they came in
Yeah.
on 14, right, and we budgeted 73 and we spent 53, is there any reason that we're budgeting 11 more?
one, we're getting more hours from that individual, but from the contract. 2, there was a difference in 14 because if you remember that there was a position that we shared with the town, the assessing shared with the town clerk, that for a while, when the town clerk resigned, went over there. So there's some savings there that was, that's why it was under.
I mean, do we, okay.
I mean, the contract's a contract. I mean, it's not,
So we've signed a contract for 64 for.
you entered into a Matt, 3-year agreement?
55.
Yes,
Yeah.
with,
MRI?
Assessor?
Yeah.
yes, 3 years.
For 64 grand a year?
No, for 55.
Oh.
That's the budget.
Oh, I see, I get
The
it.
rest is the software is the vision for the, keeping all the property records. The rest is just,
I mean, almost all of it is those 2 items.
I don't want to belabor, but what, if we signed an agreement,
you can,
no, I'm just wondering, if we only spent 53 last year, I'm just trying to figure out where's
because
the.
you also didn't have a revaluation last year. And they're gonna be doing that as part of that, this year's budget. So, one, you're already a quarter of the way through and you're at 13, so you got that times 6.
13 times 6.
You mean 13 times 4?
Yeah. No, the
13.
contract is 6, what we've expended so far.
This also doesn't include benefits of your full-time individual.
Yeah, we cut that.
This is just their salary, so there's like all
Right.
the other stuff that wraps around it. That's
I was just trying to figure out
Right,
why.
no FICA, no Medicare, no,
I was just trying to figure out why it was
Which is another reason why
53
the
last
FICA
year if
could've
we had a
gone down.
contract, and now we're at 64. That's all I'm trying to figure,
Yeah.
where's the 11 grand?
you're not at 64. You're at 55 from 40, so that's 15. And that was the additional hours that we're budgeting.
I am, you know something, I was looking at the last line,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I stand corrected, I'm sorry. Now I see it. Counselor Weinstein and then Nazaro.
I just wanted to point something out, because you just said it's a quarter.
I just said something wrong, yeah.
Well, and the reason that I say that is because we were talking about the FICA. Is that really a quarter?
For the 6.
Is that, like, because we're saying.
Yes, we get billed monthly.
But this is because it was a contract,
Well,
we did a
this
six.
$6,300.
Yes.
Is representative of what, a quarter of our current contract?
Is that
which
3 months,
Is
That's
that-
3 months.
which is a quarter of the year?
Actually, that doesn't make,
That doesn't make sense.
why are my expenditures for contracted services only $6,390 and contracted services for assessing? That should be higher if we have because we have a monthly bill of about 6,000.
This is what I'm saying, the
So
actuals
that-
are all over the map.
So I wonder
Yeah.
if that's accurate. And when we talked about the FICA before, is it really 26 or 24 or whatever it was? Is that a quarter?
But this,
what I'm looking at
but this is, yeah, but this is a contract.
contract.
Yeah,
It's
this is a little,
$55,000.
this isn't our own.
No, I know, I'm kind
Yeah.
of going back to that other conversation, because
the
And we might have hired them for a year and 2 months, or another.
Right,
But
my
what I'm
point is that
saying
under
is
actuals.
Our
it says
actuals aren't
69.
correct in this,
Right.
Okay.
so.
Could be that, that's just one payment, and they've only billed us for the month of July. They haven't billed us for August or September. It's possible.
It is a little different, Tony, I think, when you get into contracted services. it
No,
might
but I
not
understand
all-
what you're saying.
No,
Yeah.
I
she's-
just want to be accurate when we talk about just multiplying that
Yeah.
26 by 4 and assuming that that's
Yeah.
just
But
a quarter.
we went back 3 years. That's all, those 3 years were all about the same amount.
Yeah.
So there's something is,
Right.
In other words, we went back for the FICA 3 years.
Right, or FICA you're saying, no.
Yeah, well, she's
you're tracking
analogizing it
assessing,
with,
yeah.
she's analogizing it with that.
Yeah.
So-
She's basically saying if this was 6 quarters, she's trying to,
Right.
she's wondering if that is analogous to
Right.
the other thing.
Are
But
are there more questions on the assessing?
I have none,
Okay.
I have none.
Next is legal.
I had someone
Yeah,
else.
I'm sorry, Phil.
Why are we paying training for people if we're contracting them?
I
Shouldn't they be paying for
Don't
their
disagree.
training?
I would zero that out.
Um,
Members, dues we do have to pay. That's actually one of those, we have to pay to be a member of the assessing association, which is $350. Postage we need, supplies is just, we do pay for the supplies in the office. Mileage, you can zero out.
So take off 55 grand for training. Little humor.
And software is software, we need that. That's a,
So, but the mileage, so it's nothing, it's 550, but still, it's.
it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what are we taking off?
550.
550?
Yeah.
Okay.
The next page is legal.
Did you want to go back to FICA now? Is Matt ready on the FICA?
Are you ready, or?
Yeah, I've recalculated it 2 different ways. I'm coming up with the same number. I'm basically, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the budget of all the general fund line items times 6.2%. So, yeah, the actual is coming in differently than what the projection is, so, you know.
Okay.
So if you look
But a
at,
$16,000 delta is a big difference.
60,000.
It's
yeah,
crazy.
60,
Yeah.
not 16.
All the general fund line items.
so if you look at all the budgets, they're all, they break out each of the salaries.
Right.
Okay? So we actually have a spreadsheet that summarizes all the salaries, okay? So if you take the total for just the general fund, multiply it by 6.2%, I come up with 182,000, within like $750 of the number that's on the budget. So that's if you're paying all the salaries, all the overtime,
All the overtime.
yes.
So why was last year actuals, Matt? What was it, 113?
Yeah.
Why was that the case then? If what you're saying is, because we didn't have a big spike in,
Employment. I
You're
mean,
budgeting for like worst case scenario. If
Worst case.
Every single hour of overtime is used in every single department.
but we haven't hired, yeah, I don't understand, I can't.
we've never even been close to that number. I mean, if we were talking about 10 grand, you'd say, but it's such a big difference. It's not even, and not only did we look at 1 year, we looked at
Yeah.
13, 14, I don't know what the final, 12, I don't know what the, I don't know what,
And the track we're on for this year.
yeah.
And then it's all, everything is consistent except for that.
And you had a lot of overtime, because you had
Snow.
snow.
The big snow.
It's a lot of snow.
I don't know either, man, but I tell you, it shouldn't jump that much.
If we reduce it to 130, to 135, I mean, I hate to give us a cushion like that, but, I mean, if Matt,
I think we need in all fairness,
I need some, yeah,
we need a better explanation, because if we were at 113 and we
doesn't
had,
make sense.
if we had OT,
Well-
and 13's actuals, what
But why are the actuals not adding up to it?
was 13 actual, Dan, again?
Yeah, but you don't know that.
109. No, we do for the
No, we
past
have the
years.
actuals.
Past
So you had 109, you had 113, and then we're on track this year at 106.
Is it worth having Matt just do the analysis and before we vote on this at the next council meeting?
Wednesday.
Like, actually have a conversation about this? Like a real
We could
analysis,
amend
not
it.
a quick back of the envelope.
We could amend the resolution. Well, no, because you guys are going to sit here tonight and debate some use of increased revenues.
All right, why don't you bring it down to what you feel comfortable?
But we need an educated.
Well, my
Estimate.
educated guess is 186,000.
What is the
That's at
6.2 that
max.
you times everything by, Matt?
6.2% is the rate that's set by the IRS. That goes to Social Security.
Matt, just real quick, maybe this might help expedite it.
I-
Wait a minute, hold on.
No, I
one
think
second.
I've got something real. Do you include police?
No,
Okay. Police don't get Social Security, nor do fire.
right.
So, Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
that's why I just want to make sure. I'm
Matt,
not
if you
losing.
took that number that you just multiplied out, right?
Mhm.
You know, all the line items and whatnot, and you said it was 185 or whatever. If you did the same thing for last year, you have the salaries for last year, you know, all the employees,
Yeah, I
right?
don't have the spreadsheet set up like that, so I see where you're going, but I can't do like a quick calculation in the next, like, 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, the only thing I can say is, we haven't made any major changes to our hiring, to my knowledge, right? We
Right,
haven't,
no.
if anything, we've been tighter. I don't think we've added much. So I don't, you know, if you went from 109 to 113 and you're on schedule, if you want to go by, I don't know if quarterly is fair or not, I don't know how the hell you come up with
Found it.
185. Oh, what?
Pieces in there.
Oh.
What?
Matthew.
What?
You know,
He said it,
Calculation with
and I
place
just-
in there.
Yeah,
all
Take
right,
'em out.
lashes,
60,000 for police.
So you're down to
15, I had 115
you're
written in.
125.
Just
What
leave
about
it.
fire?
I have 14,000 for fire.
So you're down 74,000.
So there you go.
Let's go home.
You know, guys, there's
Right.
some days,
No big deal.
no, it isn't a big deal, it's just, it's good that
So
we,
you're at-
Run through 3 people.
we're not, this isn't personal, don't.
We're glad we found it.
This is
One
why I
of
said
those
it's not a big
spreadsheets.
deal.
So what's the number?
Hand
100
around to have someone.
How about 100
double check.
grand? Let's shoot
111, 111 is safe.
Make it 110, will you? Just
No,
go
you got-
even.
No, because 111 I'm saying is,
All right, fine, I'm not gonna,
111K. Be happy.
I know.
I know.
Well, I know, it's just, you know,
Well, leave it.
Just so
What it is.
It was so
It is what it
goofy.
It
is.
took us 8 hours to get rid of
Let's
like
roll.
30.
but they,
bucks.
that's what I was like, wait a minute, something that big, I'm trying to think of the departments, that's why I was like, police doesn't get social security.
It required a suspension of logic.
There you go.
But, and most people wouldn't
don't
realize
even-
police don't get social security. We're not, make sure we're not paying.
We're not paying social security.
Jesus Christ.
Legal.
Legal.
Set by the contract.
That's
Wow.
contract, and I already talked to the attorney, and that's what it
What
is.
page are we on, please?
That's 35.
35.
So what have we probably saved
Oh,
about
yeah.
150, 200 grand
We've
by
been,
now?
and we use him more, when we use him for training, we use
Oh, no,
him-
I'm not,
Yeah.
no, I'm not, where
Yeah.
are we, what page?
35.
35?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, he's got all the numbers, Radigan, I'm sure, but I feel it's been a lot easier to get information. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
What's his escalator?
It was 6.67%.
A year?
That was this year's, yeah. And this last year, the contract, so,
Wait a minute, was it a 2-year or 3-year deal?
2-year.
2.
2, okay.
And just for actual expenditures of 14, we're 145,000, actual expenditures in 13, we're about 81.
Is he, well, I was gonna ask you, has he
Yeah.
given you the feedback?
Oh, yeah, he
So
says
he's
we're
told
fine.
you you're, no, I'm
Oh.
saying, what did you say actual expenditures were 114?
14 was 145.
Is that what we would have spent with him? Or
No,
is
no,
that
this
what we
is
spent?
actually we
That's
spent
what we
last
actually
year,
spent?
yeah.
Okay. So does this number doesn't have the lawsuits with the town or all that other stuff?
Nope.
So where's that, Matt?
Well, when you, if we
We
have a
finished up a
loss-
lawsuit last year with whomever,
Other group.
Richardson. Is that anywhere,
It's going to be charged against legal expense.
That's in the 145 from last year.
The actual
Okay.
expenditures.
Right.
okay. Oh,
But if, say, if
here's
we-
what I'm getting at. Let me explain what I'm getting at. If we have a lawsuit this year,
it's in the 80.
okay, and I can't even believe I'm saying this.
Well, don't.
Well, no, I just want everybody, he'll find the money, but I just want people to be aware. The 80 isn't for, I mean, it is important, I wouldn't say it otherwise, because you gotta be straight with this. We have some cockamamie lawsuit, that 80 isn't gonna cover it. So, I'm just saying, I'm not suggesting we change the number, I'm
Right.
just
Outside of-
letting everybody
Right, if
know.
it's an attorney outside of Donahue Tucker, say if there's a conflict, it's not in the 80.
No, I'm saying if he had to go to the Supreme Court. and
Supreme
make a-
Court actually is covered in the contract. So,
Some.
what is not covered, but no, what's not covered is the cable franchise agreement renegotiation that we're doing. certain things to the BTLA is not covered, because that, he's gotta go above and beyond what the assessors
All
are
right, we'll
going.
leave it there.
Yeah,
I just-
we're fine, because
Okay.
that's what we reviewed it.
Sorry.
Next.
I'll never bring up a cost increase again.
Remember, we started at 6, not 7.
Planning is up 0.78%.
Oh, where is it? Where are we? I'm sorry.
Next page.
What page? 40, 30, what?
36, planning.
Okay. So we did some extra work last year, didn't we, with the upgrading of the master plan?
We're working on that now, that's why you don't see the actual, we're doing that in this budget, that's why you don't see an actual expenditure yet. Also, remember that the charter was amended, that we have to update the master plan now. We
How many
can't.
full-time salaries are there?
That would be two,
We have 2 full-time salaries in...
a part of a full-time and the
One and a
plan.
half.
One and a half.
So is it fair to say the 96 is one person?
No.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at.
1.5.
1.5 people.
Right.
1.5
That's why I'm
FTEs,
asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Half of what was in the
Code enforcement,
Code
and
enforcement.
half
Okay.
of what's in this
which is
one.
25,
Yeah.
so back 25 out of that.
Got it. Now,
Yeah.
now I feel a little different.
And the part-time is, when the administrative assistant is out, that's what covers it, so we have office coverage.
Does anybody have any, there's only one number that jumps out at me a little bit, is the advertising.
Yeah, me too.
Average
That's, it's 1,000 higher than we actually spent. And then the, Steve, if you look at tax maps,
Yeah, we added that. We need, because that's a big thing. We haven't been updating those, and you need to update those. That's just to maintain
okay.
them.
Is the advertising necessary to that degree? I mean, could it be 1,500 or?
Well, if you look at
Just
the
asking.
previous year, 2013 was 1,946. You went to 1191.
What do they advertise?
Yeah.
Meetings, planning board meetings. Planning board and zoning board have much more stringent notifications.
Oh, they gotta go in the
process than we
paper
do.
with these little
Right.
notifications.
So how many
Right.
papers?
Yeah, that's,
for
they
how
have to
many
do that. If
days,
they don't do it, then the whole thing can be
Right.
ixnayed.
That's why.
So I'm just asking if last year we had a lot going on, a lot of building, a lot of permits, if they spent, it's not a big deal, but I'm
Yeah.
just asking, if they spent 1,100
Plus
in a
rates
year.
are going up.
I've seen the revenues go up. So I would anticipate that they're seeing more
Advertising.
filings.
Fine,
Yeah.
I'll just drop it. Anything else? Anybody else? Phil? Constance?
No,
Oh,
I'm good. That was the whole-
Okay. Anybody else?
Next
Okay.
page, Conservation Commission, no increase.
Leave them alone.
Turtle sides.
Turtle sign. Turtle signs.
Someone had to say it.
I know, I was waiting.
I'm trying to figure out if we can get some compensation for moving them off the road.
The next is economic development.
DPW,
I had to use a couple of cans of Lysol to spray the house down.
The next is economic development. We left that level at 1,000. It's just, we don't know yet, because we're still doing that next phase study, which we will find in the operating budget to offset it, but,
Yeah, economic development is probably gonna be whatever it was, 15-ish.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we're finding that, so.
Okay.
Debt service, you can't touch. It is, right, you gotta pay it. After that, we get into.
Well, we could go chapter 7.
Yeah.
What's left?
You need to go to grants on page 51. That is,
Okay.
the increase is due to our increase in Coast Bus. And I can tell you, I've been receiving a number of calls at this point because there's discussion that Coast may change or if not shut down the amount of service that we receive due to Stratham and Greenland not kicking in. Our route goes from Pease to Exeter, and they make a swing through Newmarket. So this reflects what we've already been told our dues are going to be for Coast.
What's the ridership?
It's actually it's very high for Newmarket.
Is it?
Newmarket's high compared to other communities.
Okay.
And we
So
actually.
we're getting our money's worth, you
Yeah,
think?
we have two bus services.
And festivals cost 15 grand.
That's Old Home and Heritage.
But before we move on from
Hmm.
Coast, though.
I have my light on for that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Counselor Bentley and then.
Dale can go.
No, you can go, John. I just want, I didn't want to finish the conversation.
No, I didn't want to leave festivals, though, because
That's after. You want festivals, or you want bus?
festivals.
Okay.
Festivals for
Well,
the rest.
let's stay on the bus
Bus?
then.
Okay.
Because I just wanted to follow, did you say Greenland and Stratham are dropping out of that? Then what's
They are
going to
not-
happen with, our dues won't support it then,
That's
right?
what we're trying to figure out right now.
Okay.
And I've clearly told Coast that if we don't have a route, we don't pay the dues.
Well, does that mean we won't have,
No, odds are we will have some kind of route, but we would have to, we would have
but
to,
would it be 20 grand?
yes.
Might just come here and not go to
Right.
Exeter and Greenland. I
Yeah,
mean, they
but
go.
but it
Those
might
community
spike,
spots would
it
go
might
up.
spike the number, John, that's the.
Right.
Yeah.
This is their estimated increase before any issues with the closing of it.
Right. Well, and the other thing that might happen is the frequency could drop off.
Right.
And if the frequency drops too much, then the value becomes questionable as well.
Right, and that's what we've been discussing. We've been meeting as a working group.
So back to the question, if they do drop out for sake of argument, is that 20,
You
could
have-
that go away?
It can't wait.
Might go up.
Or it could, or we could.
I would not
go-
come to the council and ask for an increase. I mean, if, they would need to find something. If they come in and say it's going away, we're not gonna have a route at all, then we won't spend it. But we need to have, as of right now, everything's status quo. We are having a route, everything's the same.
When will we know?
We're not going to know.
We won't know
otherwise.
until the spring,
Right.
after the budget's passed.
All right.
Okay, I mean, I just want to make one thing clear that you said, because you said if, it may not happen, but let's just say it does, for
Yeah.
some reason, they don't come to terms,
Yeah.
right? You could, and I'm not saying it's a big deal, I'm just bringing it up, you could use that money somewhere else in the budget if you had it.
I would have to
Because
ask
it'll
the-
be in the budget.
I'd have to ask the council, yes. Because I'm transferring it from one line to the other, I have to ask the council to do so.
Okay. Did you do that this year that
Yep,
often?
every
Did you?
June.
Okay, fine, I'm done. Counselor Bentley,
On the
festivals.
festivals, it's 15.5, perfectly even each time, and it was for the Heritage and for the Oyster Fest? Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Old Home Weekend, oops. That this year we didn't do the Heritage, right?
They did do Heritage,
We did it early. We did it in the spring.
Oh, we didn't do it in the fall,
right.
okay. So we give, is it an even split? We give 7,500, 775
Is
always?
it even?
No, it's
No.
not. It's 85, 7,000.
It's close.
Yeah,
It's more.
I think the Oyster Festival.
Old Home Day.
Old Home Day.
I mean, Old Home Day.
Home Day.
no,
Who else are billing now?
billing who?
Both. If whichever needs our services for any
And we're giving them money?
town,
What do you mean billing them? For police service, or?
public works service,
So then,
So we're giving a grant and then we're billing.
so we give them a grant and then we turn around and
we
bill
bill
'em.
more than what we get.
So I said it last year, I've said it a couple of years, I love these fests, I've rode the trolley, I've served soup at the things, I've done things as a counselor, I've done things as a parent, I've done things, I love these things, I still think it's a lot of money. I think we should engage the businesses to do some more. Like one time we talked about banners, we sat here and talked about banners, I think it was before you, Steve, and you know, they wanted 2,500 for new banners, and there was some questions, can't you just, you know, because the date was different. I'm like, are you kidding me? Have a banner that you can just change the date on, but they're great festivals, it's great for our town, but,
It's really talking about sponsorships and stuff like that.
but it is
Remember
what it
they
is.
used
It
to have
looks like-
flags? They used to put the flags up in the street. Remember they printed those, who was bringing things on? Go back a few years, remember they had the.
Way back, we had wooden signs, and they would just paint over it every year and
Yeah.
put them by the golf course.
No, people used to buy the banners when they'd put up and they'd say, brought to you by, I remember
Oh,
a couple of
yeah.
years, they
Oh,
actually
correct.
sold
Correct.
sponsors.
Yeah.
I
That's
remember
just an
that.
idea for some of the committees and commissions that do it, and they do a great job, just,
Newmarket Athletic Association is 21 too, and that's for,
that's Little League,
Little League.
because I asked that last year, in the last couple of years. All right, anyway,
what is a hand tub association
it's
do?
the old fire truck right next to it.
What do they do for $2,000? I'm just curious.
Maintain that building.
Maintain it,
Oh,
clean it, bring it out now and then.
It comes out in parades and stuff. I think the
I get
Veterans
it.
or Memorial Day Parade it was out.
okay.
That's that one.
Is everybody cool with that?
The next page is social service grants. It's down 26.65%.
He says with pride.
Well, no, the reason why, and I want to make sure it's clear.
What
this-
page you on?
The next page. Area homemakers did not submit every year. I have that new rule that they must submit a request for public funding in which they give me their audits, their financials, the number of people who use it in the community, et cetera, et cetera. It's a pretty thick packet. They did not submit, so they did not receive. In Lamprey, I did not recommend it last year. I'm not recommending it this year. They are a non-taxed entity in the town, so they also receive $70,000 in non-taxation from the town, from their property.
Yeah.
So above the $70,000 that we give, we also don't. We give from taxation, we're giving them $10,000 in cash. I just can't, and I've talked to other towns that host Lamprey community centers, and they don't do this.
Council Weinstein.
My question is for the area homemakers. So did we follow up with them?
We did. I never heard back.
You know, just as a side, I'm sorry, Councilor Nazaro.
Last year, there was one missing, correct?
We put it
was-
in.
Which one was it? It
Meals
was
on Wheels.
Meals on Wheels, right?
Meals on Wheels didn't submit, and they did submit this year. I gotta tell you, they're actually very good at getting, as soon as I send that letter out,
Where is
every
it?
entity sends their thing back.
I guess my question is, where is Meals on Wheels here?
Meals on Wheels
Is
is,
it Rockingham County?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, it's cut off there?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I mean, not only that, most of them are calling ahead of time. You do have one new one, Ready Rides, at 1,500. That's a volunteer organization that helps people who need a ride to the doctors and places like that. and they'll go
After
pick
the
'em up.
budget, we'll need.
Yeah. So,
Well, if the, if the
RSVP?
coast goes out, they'll be.
that's a senior volunteer program. They,
I don't see Ready Ride on
It's
here.
at the
Bottom.
bottom.
Bottom. That's-
Oh, it's all in little letters.
Oh, they hit it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of times we look at the nonprofits like, you know, they don't make money. They make money. I mean, you know, I think in the past, we've sort of gotten into that mode where it's a nonprofit, so we do things, but they're making money. You know, it's not
Right.
necessarily nonprofit.
These are ones that were, the investment that they are providing in the community is outweighing what we would end up paying through
Yep.
Heather's group if we were
Exactly.
investing here.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of these, really, in general.
so,
There is one, oh, I see, it was proposed, the one for 96, and we'll just leave that alone. Get into that.
Well, then what's the RCCAP? I thought Rockingham County.
that's Rockingham County Community Action. That's more oil, medical assistance, bigger items like that.
It's amazing, they all spend exactly just about the amount.
No, they ask for more, I just don't fund it.
No, I'm saying whatever they spend, they, you know, in other words,
It
whatever.
is, no, it's a flat fee, it's a
Yeah,
grant, we give them a
it's
grant.
like-
We don't-
I'm just saying, they all go right to
bills
the,
and the-
Right, but just so you know, cut them a check for that amount. It's not like
Oh.
they don't
Yeah.
bill us monthly.
I
It's
make
a
them
grant.
send me a letter.
do
with
we
the amount
know
that's
that
in the
they actually
appropriation.
provide that much service?
As of last year, we started doing that. Before.
'Cause how would you know?
They didn't. Well, I have a stack of documents this big that we review before we give them money.
As part of his document, there are questionnaires. And one of his questions, who do you service? Do you service anyone here in Newmarket? How many people? It's that kind of information he's getting back. He wants to make sure that the money he's giving out to the nonprofits are actually servicing the residents.
No, well, I was gonna say, and I don't, listen, it's 30 grand, let's just drop it, but we should probably be getting the service and getting invoiced to make sure it was provided, instead of the other way around. We're basically giving them the money, and then they're kind of showing, you know what, it really should be the other way around. But anyway, it's not,
I could just say it's not. That doesn't. No municipality does that. It's a. That's why they call it a grant.
because you really don't know, I mean, I won't say,
Yeah.
you don't really know if it's being provided or not. You know, you're getting an invoice after the fact, but it's okay.
What is RSVP?
Retired Senior Volunteer Program.
They didn't have, she didn't fund it.
Right, no, I'm just curious what it was.
All right.
Okay.
Next.
Contribution to capital reserve funds. The capital improvement committee recommended $601,000 449, I recommended 377,949. It's a $50,000 and a little bit change increase over the previous year. The $50,000 is for the contribution to the McAllen Dam Capital Reserve. Everything else is
Level.
level or reduced.
Council Weinstein.
Can we get the capital fund balances?
Please pass these around.
Thank
You don't want to do too much.
Yeah.
There you go.
Stormwater management's an increase.
Yeah, I just noticed that one as well.
So we're carrying about 5 million.
5 million, including the water and sewer, yes. The one you want to look at is a 2.8 for this one.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Non-fungible.
Everything above the 2.8, yeah, is what's real to us.
Right, is what's in there.
Downtown TIF. So explain the downtown TIF remaining balance of 700,000?
Every
Is it
year-
we're paying, oh, we're paying that off over 100 years? Is that the deal?
Not 100,
Yes.
but yes.
I was being a
I
little
know.
facetious. So, Matt-
But we believe you. That's
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What do we pay a year for that, out of that, do you know roughly?
Yeah, I can tell you how much it's gonna be. I just have to go to my debt service for a second.
We can't just pay that off, right?
No,
That's-
we
That's the
cannot.
problem.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we paying interest?
Yes.
It-
Okay, we're paying $75,000 of principal payment each and every year. And for fiscal year 16, we're gonna be paying almost $24,000. Let's see if I can go out any more years.
You know what I wanted to ask you? If we did pay it off at once, could you do that and pay a penalty?
There is no provision to pay it off. The only way we could do it is to set up a trust.
They don't allow us to pay it off. There's no penalty clause either. You have to.
Do it this way?
Yeah.
I didn't know if we would save money by paying, I
Right.
don't know, I just thought.
No, yeah, we looked at that at one point, and they
Yes.
said there's no provision to pay it off.
Okay. Public Works, 4
But
acres.
that's the last.
Yeah, we're just going through it real
Oh,
quick.
sorry.
So 2.8 million is what we're sitting on.
That's part of the reason why I didn't add a lot either. I mean, for some of them, like buildings and the building fund, we have 299,742.
What's
So-
compensated absence? Is that if somebody
That's-
gets hurt and they leave?
No. We have now 11 employees who are eligible to retire. If an employee retires near the end of a fiscal year, my budget, or your budget, will be blown because I got to pay for their sick and vacation when they
Okay, so that gives
end
you the
employment.
money to write that
To
check?
balance out the budget.
You couldn't do that out of the general fund money if you had
Fund
to?
balance? No.
No.
I apologize. I can't even tell anymore. Council Nazaro and then Weinstein.
Oh,
So,
no, that's not me.
I know we're on 2.8, but again, non-fungible, so things have to stay within the capital reserve that they're in.
Right.
So that you have to look at it as like the whatever, 15 or 20.
Oh, and to
individual
remind,
lines.
it's a good time to remind everybody, this is in your budget now, but when you look at the ballot, this will all be backed out, because these are all now going to be separate warrant articles, which you are going to be voting on Wednesday night.
So,
Get some water ready to read all those resolutions.
So-
Mr. Allen, before you leave, because you've been patient, did you want to make a public comment before you left? Is that what you've been waiting for, or are you okay?
do we, oh,
No, I'm just,
I sent you an email on what went.
okay,
Yeah.
I trust you can handle it.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, my point is, so I see that from what the Capital Improvement Committee recommended, the town administrator made some adjustments. I know that the dam is an issue, know that there's the whole DES thing, but I would personally, and I don't, this is just me, this is not the Capital Improvement Fund, our committee, with the stormwater management, that is like water that is going in people's houses right now. Like, not right now, but like, there's some areas of town where there's the potential for a lot of property damage to go, so pulling that money out of there I mean, I'd rather see us find something elsewhere to ensure that we're properly funding stormwater management, because I think that's like a really pressing concern.
It is, and we're not there yet to do the project itself. We're still in the engineering phases, so that's why I didn't include the 91 to do that. Any kind of construction on that, odds are we're gonna have to come and ask for a bond.
Okay,
It's
so
gonna be
we're
a
just
significant-
planning on bonding that
Yeah.
at this point? All right, then, thank
Is
you.
that the norm, while Phil's on that subject, is that gonna be the norm for most of the municipalities to bond that?
Actually, stormwater management is
I mean, what do we think it's gonna cost?
There's two parts of this, what we're talking about. You're thinking the MS4 program, that's actually in the operating budget. This stormwater management is to replace some of the stormwater drains in the downtown area. This area is an issue. There's an old creek that actually goes under, am I correct? I gotta remember, believe it's an old creek that goes under, that was culverted 100 years ago. That's part of stormwater management. If you remember last summer, we had this street closed because we had to replace part of that culvert because it was getting clogged.
So it's not the one that Phil's thinking about? It's not
No,
the-
it is.
Oh, it is.
No, he is.
And you got, the other one's like out towards New Village,
Right.
right? Yeah.
So that's why we're putting that stuff together. And we're actually applying for grants and meeting with Stratford Regional Planning to try to get that stuff, more additional monies to mitigate it, so.
Do we know what that's gonna cost,
We don't.
roughly?
No, that's why we're paying right now for engineering.
And there was like a rough estimate that we used, but it was like,
I mean, is it like, well over
was
6
millions.
millions?
Like maybe 1.5, I don't want to like speak, but over $1 million.
Right. Because you're gonna have to go, I mean, it's replacing all these culverts that are under properties and take those out and correct them and make sure properties aren't draining other things into those and those kind of items that we have to make sure, so.
Dumb question, why is cable TV 71,000? I'm just asking, because they're giving us what'd you say, 160 a year or something? Then they
That's the
give us
school
10
one.
But it goes to the
Well,
general.
no,
fund.
then they give us 10 grand to buy, no, they give us the 10 grand or whatever it is, that's where the school buys stuff.
This is where it comes from, the 10. The 10 goes into this fund.
It doesn't go into the capital reserve fund.
What is the 71 then?
That 71 was created long before I've been here.
Oh.
Do we,
So everything that's on
Sitting
that list went through a town meeting warrant.
that's fine.
Okay, no, I'm just
not-
listing it all out, so it's gonna be some sort of capital reserve raised through
Do we
taxation.
need, I mean, it's 71,000
That's-
for what?
Mm.
You can't get rid of it.
Well, should we put it on I'm just asking, what do we, when's the last time we touched it?
What would it be touched for?
No.
Yeah.
Equipment, so I'm
Yeah.
going back to my IT one.
But they give us, just so everybody
No,
knows, they're giving us money for the equipment.
Right, I get that.
And we have a technology one that's 37K.
Because we could put a warrant
Why don't-
in front of people, and that we could say that we recommend eliminating it if we don't need it. Now, we have to do this a second, I'm just asking the question because it seems a bit duplicitous
Yeah.
or redundant.
We'll go back
And
and
it's
try to
7 grand.
research it.
And if not that, I mean, we could buy, if we need equipment and we're putting off on something, we're sitting on this money, we should be doing that.
I'm sure there's, I mean, it's going to be an explicit use to what those
Right,
can buy.
correct.
It'll be very limited.
Very, very.
I'd rather turn it back, and then if there's a need, that's me, so.
I tend to agree with you on this one.
If we haven't touched the thing.
Wouldn't we want to go back and find out?
Well, we can, we're gonna do,
Yeah.
when can we
Yep.
find out for our next meeting, maybe what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll put it in my report.
Okay. Is there anything else here that looks like that while we're just running through it real quick?
I've got my light there.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Counselor Pike.
Yeah, I just wanted, we said we were going to, when Rick brought up that the funding is not adequate for the projected purchase of, fire equipment in here. And we said we'd talk about it when we got here. Is there anything for us to say about whether or not we're?
So that would be the second line at 277? Is
Right.
that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
277 will go up to 327.
Right, and he said that the rate isn't adequate. I didn't know if you have any comments to that, or, just see it differently than he does, or?
I mean, my thought is this, you don't buy a fire truck out of this fund. It's just not, it's too big of a piece of equipment to buy out of there. And you could comment, you don't need that, you can ask me. Go ahead.
I'm
Well,
waiting.
let's go in.
Let's finish your comment
No,
before I.
because fire trucks are $500,000 now, or in that area. This is, if you wanted to buy an ambulance, you could get it out of there. I would almost recommend a lease purchase when it comes to something like a fire truck or something larger. And even actually some of the larger fire trucks, if we ever had to replace the ladder.
Well, Rick was talking more, I don't want to speak for Rick, but he was talking more about radios.
And apparatus.
Yeah, it wasn't-
Apparatus is a vehicle.
Is a vehicle.
Oh, okay.
But like, that's why I'm saying fire trucks probably wouldn't be coming out of this. Ambulances would be coming out of this. Ambulances you could fund through this. Fire trucks, I mean, you're talking, like I said, $500,000.
So you both are in the capital improvement plan
Yeah.
for fire right now.
So it's underfunded to take it out of there. Most places either lease or bond now. They're like a car payment.
Just so I understand what you're saying, Phil, you're saying the capital improvement plan says,
The capital improvement plan has replacement of apparatus and equipment.
right, but the capital reserve isn't being
It's not
funded.
funded to a level that it will actually cover that, at least within the years that the plan is. It would have
So
to
the
be
two
expanding.
are not in.
They're not in sync.
No.
And what Steve is saying, if I'm bringing this whole thing together, is most of those items, even though if we could buy an ambulance now because we have enough money in there, when you get to a truck or something of that magnitude, most of the counties or towns are bonding it or not using it out of a CIP, at least that's what.
Or you can actually do revenue leases where you take the revenue from your ambulance and offset purchases that way too.
And how long before we expect to need to purchase a truck? Is that a long ways
I
away?
don't know.
It was
It was like,
a long ways away,
yeah, I think the first one was like 2018, is that right?
somewhere out there.
Yeah.
But then the question then becomes, do we need to buy one at that point? Like, is it a
We don't know.
feasible?
Right.
Okay.
There's a lot that has to go
That's
into
a
that
discussion
conversation.
for probably, you
Then
know.
I'm satisfied with it, that's fine.
Counselor Bentley,
No, I'm good.
sure, okay. Did you have anything else, Phil?
No, I'm good, thanks.
So we're gonna look into the cable thing, just to
Yep.
see what the heck it is.
But just for the record, that doesn't, everyone realize that doesn't impact the budget.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
But if we put it on a warrant to return it, I'm just saying if we didn't want it, if we wanted to close it out,
Yep.
it would theoretically be returned to the general fund down the
The
road.
fund balance at the end of the fiscal year, so on July 1.
Yeah, I'm not,
I just want to
I'm
make sure.
not trying to
yeah.
grab the money
No,
now.
no, no, I just want to make sure, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would take it if you
Yeah.
wanted to give it to me, but,
Anybody want to know where we are?
where are we? Hold on, let me guess.
We're done.
We took out about 60, are we close to 200 Gs? All in?
I can tell you that
155, I'm going to say 155.
I have two,
This is where they usually say in the religious moments, you know, let us pray.
I can tell you that right now, if we were to,
What we just recommended, it would
everything,
be,
the tax rate would be $6.18.
Well, what's the expenditures?
Expenditures? Hold on.
and what did we take off the budget? That was what I was
That's
curious.
what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get.
I stepped out for doing the FICA stuff, so I.
The other day, we were somewhere in the mid-30
Spinning.
range, I thought, and then whatever we did today. We took out a few purely line items today.
Yeah,
I mean,
just want to make sure I do the formula correctly.
we
to
took
double check.
out, let's see, 2,900 out of fire. We took 12.5 and $80 out of buildings and grounds. You kept a copy, you made a
Yeah, I just,
annotation of
the
this.
the formula is not there to do what you request. It doesn't, you only do the entire budget, you don't do it by general fund, which is the one we need.
Oh,
We took 16.5 out of welfare.
Good, let me,
Is there a sheet that lists in here where total expenditures are?
yeah, the first page, it says combined. It should be on page,
26? But that has all the water and wastewater.
right, that's the issue. Yeah, 25, 26.
We took 74 out of the FICA.
Yeah, let me just run something real quick.
74, 75. If we had a few more pages, we might get somewhere. But I'm,
Yeah. Now, Matt, I gotta ask you, when you do, no, I gotta include that, because that's offset, your capital reserve, your library your library revolving in the solid waste, you put that in the revenue, right? I'm trying to do a figure for them so they can figure it out.
just a
Yeah.
close ballpark would be nice from the other day to today.
Yeah, for each of the departments to have their own revenue, it's in the revenue line up above.
So I do include
The
this.
library has no revenue.
That's not what I'm saying. I do include it in the grand total, where I'm trying to get them the
For
difference.
just the general fund?
Tax rate.
Oh, for the tax rate? The tax rate,
Now, they want to know how much they cut. I'm trying to compare what was proposed and what was cut
There we go.
yes,
for the general fund, not water and sewer.
okay.
So
Water
that-
and sewer is still is equal to each other, so the revenue equals the expenditure.
Okay.
So with the combined spreadsheet, because those are net zero,
Okay.
the bottom number should, the tax rate at the bottom should be roughly,
So if we cut from water, does that come out,
Hold on,
Steve, or
I'll
not?
get you the number.
Wait.
Yeah, hold on. From my budget to this, you reduced.
and I made sure that the revenue formula for water and sewer calculates
It's only
properly.
110, that's not right.
Yeah, that's about what I'm getting to.
Oh, yeah?
That what, we reduced it?
I'm sorry?
What's the 110?
That's what you reduced.
Well,
Because
if we took 30 the other day and about 60 or 70
it's about
today
10.
with,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because solid waste isn't in that number?
solid waste isn't that one I just did.
Is it in the number we're talking about?
Yeah.
Because, just so you know, we took 5,000 out of solid waste.
Yeah.
I have the list here.
Go ahead and read them down, I'll write them down.
Well, I mean, it's not perfect, but on page 57, I had 35,000 from solid waste deduction.
35,000?
No, we cut it back, from,
Right,
40
It's
to
minus
35,
five.
so it's 5
You
grand.
got that, yeah.
Five
So
grand.
That's correct, the number 110 is correct.
You think?
Yeah.
So expenditures are going up by about $76,000 from last year.
Yep,
My math
2,900.
shows.
3.8% over, the 9 to 9, including water and sewer, it's a 3.8% increase.
Yeah, if I back out water and sewer, which is what I just did.
Yeah.
So if you back out, and tell me if I did this correctly.
He's saying you can include water and sewer, though, in the reductions. No?
Oh,
Or
okay.
yes?
This problem is everybody looks at two different things. You say, well, everybody looks at the percentage budget increase, and I'll say 3.8. Well, yeah, because that includes water and sewer, which
Which is
is,
why I want to pull water and sewer out, because that is like, we cannot change that because of what we're
it's
doing.
not on taxation. Right.
So.
What you
if I
want to
back
look
out
at,
Water and sewer.
and actually what you want to look at, because you haven't discussed revenues, is what the net appropriation is going to be.
Right now I'm just looking at expenditures.
I understand that, but what I want to explain that the net expenditure appropriation is down about 100,000 because of increase in revenues. Because we have a 6.89% increase in revenues, that's what we're budgeting as of now. Actually, it's more, I guess, I need to know exactly where we are on a spreadsheet for the number. But,
You're looking for just the general fund.
yeah, hold on. Give me 2 seconds, I'm sorry.
Relax.
Oh, we should have it. in my-
5. What's not going to help to scream at you?
I have $6,490,353 just for the general fund.
But-
That doesn't include
Add the
library?
special fund.
Okay, add the special funds.
You know, on buildings and grounds, if anybody has their notes, on page 46, we took 5,000 out of mosquito. And I see up above that, I had 7,500. Was that 7,500 from 10 grand, our savings of 2,500?
Okay.
Okay, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you took 5, we have that. We.
No, I'm just asking if I did
I'm
it
just telling
right.
you, we ran the spreadsheet, we have a running spreadsheet here of all your reductions.
Okay, I'm just trying to, 19 and 6 is 25, 2,900. I just want to see if we're close, that's all. And you might be.
All the reductions. So for just the general fund and all the special revenue funds, I have about 7.4 million, 7,448,000.
Okay,
And then-
You should be just a little bit lower than me.
right, 7,437,288.
That's what I have,
Yeah,
which is 76,000 more than last year.
yeah.
Yeah, it's about, without doing it all, I had
And if you think
105
about it,
grand, so
A big
it's.
chunk of that is
It's
the
money.
workers' comp
Take what you can
is
get.
60.
Yeah, and if you,
That's about right.
60,000 is workers' comp. So the rest are, yeah.
and if we look, and if that, I know it's not going to do anything tomorrow, but if that fund gets shut down for the cable, that's
We're-
another 70,000.
We're adding back the fund balance.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Which would put us to about 180.
I could get, we were reviewing our fund balance. And we're helping. We're at 9%.
Why don't you go through it with us? Do we have a piece of paper that goes through the whole thing, Steve?
Now,
We really should go through this for a minute, and just so everybody knows. what the
I would
hell's going
appreciate
on.
the full look.
Phil, what was the final increase in the budget? Just rough.
Just over 76,000.
right.
And how much that is?
60,000 is the workers'
60.
comp.
Which is about what we didn't spend last year.
We're gonna go on to this next, is
We-
that what's happening here?
Yeah.
Can I ask, I'm green over there.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, obviously I wasn't here Saturday, and one of the things I had highlighted, and I start looking at it and rubbing my head here, Young's Lane, heat and oil, I'm on page 46. So that's the senior center, correct?
Yeah.
39,000. It's open 5 days a week. Yet,
Wait a minute, hold on.
No, Young's Lane.
That's the,
That's the DPW
That's
garage.
DBW.
Comes Lane.
oh, why don't we write it? Then when we see community center,
Yeah,
that's the rec center.
yeah.
Where do we see the senior center? Does that just go under the community
I think
center?
we're just rolling that into rec right now.
It's under the recreation one.
So they're aggregating those two.
No, it's under a whole different page. It's under recreation.
Matt,
That's right.
where's the senior center heat?
No, it would have to be here, every single building
Matt,
here, town
where's the
hall's here,
senior-
police
Okay, hold
station.
on, hold on.
Yeah, take it easy.
Okay.
All right.
All right, doesn't matter, if it's
No,
rolled in with
it's
rec.
in the
then-
rec department, okay? Now, in years past, if I recall correctly, the heat and electricity were being paid for by the housing authority, and now we're bearing the brunt of that.
Is it in the rec because of the revolving fund?
No, it's in the rec and the general fund.
Yeah, and I think the senior center used to get a grant or something from the feds, and they stopped that a couple of years ago, or something like that. Is that right, Matt?
That's right.
So I think we ended up dealing with that.
Yes.
Do you have another question?
No.
Okay.
Okay,
So let's want to take us through it?
fund balance. I'm gonna explain everything and how we get there. Fund balance is what we must have, the budgets of the town, the school, and the county. The town is the general fund only, we take out the water and sewer, and we don't have to do bonds.
Right.
Schools is what we'd have to raise for them, so it's anything minus their revenue, which is 13 million. And the county is a flat fee, because that's what we get for a bill every year. So what we need to hold, the number the magic number there is the 21,252,740. Fund balance retained, they recommend between 5% and 10%. So on this sheet, Matt used 5%, which is the minimum. So the minimum 5% of that 21 million is $1,062,637. $637. That's the minimum we could have in fund balance. Currently, we have $1,955,358.
Where are you now?
The next line down. Same page.
Okay. We currently have what, 1,955,000?
358, which is 9.2%. So what we have available above,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
While you're there, is the money that you're using?
let me go
Oh, you're
through. I'm
gonna
gonna go
okay.
through.
All right.
So right now, above that, above the 5%, we have $892,721. To reduce what we have budgeted as revenue for this fiscal year is the $450,000. So above that, we have an additional $442,721 in fund balance to be at the minimum.
So the 450 is what you've got budgeted that you want to take from the fund balance to this year's budget, correct?
The proposed budget.
Proposed budget.
The 450 for this year's budget's already taken. This is proposed, this is what's in the budget before.
And
you.
just go over what was the 892 when you say available?
That's the difference between 5% and what we have currently.
Is everybody getting that?
Okay, so if you take your budget, multiply it by 5%, you're gonna have 1,062,000. That is the lowest number that you can, in the fund balance policy, hit, okay? We have $1.9 million of actual money sitting in fund balance. The difference between the lowest and what's in there is $892,000.
And just to go the next step, we already have that 450,000
And
out.
that- yeah,
That's
that-
what I'm saying, right now,
need that.
we're at 7.08%.
So
yes.
just so I want to just make sure I understand
Yep.
this. So the 1955 has already has not taken into account the
50, no.
450. So we actually have 1955 plus 460.
No.
No.
1955 minus 450.
Let's get us the 1.5.
For this year's budget, that you've already taken out, or the one you're
Right.
proposing this year?
Don't even pay attention to this year's budget. This year's budget's done. The fiscal year 15 is done. You're not
And,
touching that.
okay, and after you did that, we were left with
1955.
And after you take the 4 and change off that, we're gonna
That
have
I'm proposing.
we're gonna have about 1.5.
Right.
Yes.
Am I in the ballpark?
Exactly,
right.
1.5, which is 7%. So above that, to get to 5, you have $442,721.
If we wanted to go to 5.
Right. If you wanted to go to,
Did that take into account the adjustments we made tonight?
it has nothing to do with
Couldn't
that.
have,
It
yeah.
doesn't do with that. It's used the previous year's budget. That's how you determine it. So you agree with the question?
I guess the question, I'll ask the question this way. In a way, when you spend 450,000 for every year, you spend 450 to the next year. So in a sense, you are, rather than being at 7%, which we were last year, because we also spent 450 forward, in my mind, it almost feels like, well, then it's almost being at closer to 10% or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Because in a way, taking money from this year's fund balance, spending it to the next year's budget, is a way, it's a way of being conservative, it's a way of adding some cushion in there, right? And am I wrong in how I'm
Not really.
thinking about this?
Not really adding a cushion. Basically, what we're doing is we're trying to give it back to the taxpayers.
I look at it like it's increasing the budget. That's how I look at it.
We are
Asking
budgeting
expenditures.
for a net income loss of $450,000.
Say again?
We're budgeting for a net income loss for $450,000. When we say we're going to use $450,000, if you were a business, your revenues would be less than your expenditures by $450,000, reducing your reserves.
So we're using money,
So this is your retained earnings in your business, okay? We're saying that you're going to hold 5% of your retained earnings. And the only way we can reduce it is to budget for a net income loss.
Yeah.
problem with that mentality is if you don't have the money one year, you're in trouble.
But the difference here is, we're telling you ahead of time, so you can deal with that in March, versus what other towns do is you don't find out you don't have that until November when you're gonna set the tax rate, and then you don't tell the voters, and they approve a bunch of things, and the tax rate goes up in November because you don't have the revenue. You don't have this fund balance to be able to be used. We're saying, we're turning it back and planning now to give this back to you. Will get us to that level that we need to be, so you don't have to worry about it when you're voting on the budget. Versus years past, you would vote on the budget, no use of fund balance discussed, people would assume you were gonna have it, because years in the past, they would use it to reduce the budget, and you don't have it one year, and the budget shoots up by the amount you would be using. I always say, it gets rid of the spikes and valleys of using fund balance by budgeting it. You try to give a flat number.
Counselor Weinstein and then Nazaro.
I understand what you're saying, but at some point, we're not gonna have it.
You're right. We had,
And
at some point in
we're
time,
gonna not have that $450,000.
you're right, and at some point in time, we'll have to budget differently to not have that. I mean, we're gonna have to make some, what you should really be doing with this 450 is doing one-time projects, so that you don't have to rely on it in the following year if you don't have it. The way I look at it is, this is going towards what some communities would do, this is the contribution to the capital reserve funds. All those capital reserve funds, which is 337,000, what you would say in traditional town meeting form is, and withdraw this amount from fund balance. And that's basically what we're doing, but we're budgeting, because that's the way we've always done it here. We've always done the capital reserve fund as part of the budget, so you're offsetting it by budgeting the revenue.
Plus 100.
Plus about 100, but that happens too. I mean, they use that. And actually, I would probably, to get us, if you wanted to go further, I mean, you could go another 50.
I have my own take on it, but you done, Tony? Phil?
So what if, instead of contributing to the capital reserve funds, we took the additional fund balance and put that in the capital reserve funds, and then just took off the contributions out of the budget?
You would actually be, you mean take only the 337? I'm trying to,
Yeah, take the 337 legitimately just out of the budget and say we're gonna take the extra fund balance.
the 450?
Or 377 out of the 450 and put that in capital reserve and just reduce the amount of taxation by the 377. Because you said what other municipalities do is take whatever the excess is.
Let me explain this real quick. You're gonna be doing that anyways, because when we get to the bottom line for the budget, your budget's gonna be down 337, because I have to take that out. The general fund budget's down 337.
I recognize that, but to the taxpayer, it doesn't matter because they're gonna end up, except they're voting on each one separately.
Exactly.
So, what if we got rid of all, like, if we moved money from the fund balance to capital reserves, would they have to vote on the movement from fund balance to capital reserve funds separately?
Yes.
They have to include it in the warrant article.
So, why don't we do that? We could reduce the amount of this, what we're asking the taxpayers for
You'd
this year by
still be short
377.
150 that you'd have to withdraw from fund balance. What you do is you'd reduce that $450,000 in revenue by 337. Offer that as every warrant article would state and withdraw from fund balance.
And it would say recommended or not recommended by...
Exactly, but still you need money in here because it's higher than what the capital reserves are. And you're still hitting the fund balance. I mean, it doesn't change these numbers. You're still withdrawing from there.
Well, it would if they said no.
That's the only time, is if they said no.
That's a big what if. Because they'd be looking at a lower number, and then they'd be making a conscientious decision as to whether or not they want. I mean,
Yeah,
this
but
is our
I-
chance to ask.
But I want to give you experience. When it says no impact on the tax rate, because that's what you have to say, they usually pass.
Well, no, we can tell people what each warrant article is going to.
But there is no impact on the tax rate if you're withdrawn from capital reserve fund.
I'm not talking about
Withdrawing
taking
from
away,
fund
I'm talking about funding them.
Right. But by funding them, what I'm saying, when you write the warrant article, it says to raise and appropriate X amount to be placed in capital reserve fund Y, and to withdraw said amount from fund balance. The total impact on the tax rate is 0, because you're not raising money through taxation to fund it, you're withdrawing from fund balance. And when people see that, they're more tempted to vote for something because there's no impact on the tax rate. So it's usually, they will usually pass. I mean, I can tell you, I've
Just
seen,
explain why it doesn't have any impact. I'm just asking.
because you're not raising tax money to pay for it.
We already have the money.
We
in
already have the
hand.
Already there.
It's like we talked about that 450
Now
that we
pay me
paid
later,
forward
it's
each
gonna
year.
hit you eventually.
In this case, instead,
Okay.
it gets transferred directly to the capital reserve.
So okay, so in all fairness, just playing the devil's advocate briefly, the option would be if we gave, and I'm not saying this is my philosophy, I'm just saying, if we gave tax reduction and we lowered the fund balance, then they would be seeing at some point that if we didn't have this much money in the fund balance, they'd be seeing it's gonna cost me this, and this is what it's gonna cost on the tax rate.
Right.
Right. That's what I'm saying, is that especially based on what Steve said other municipalities do.
Right.
If we say, look, we have excess fund balance, we should be allocating that towards capital reserve projects, then you take the amount that we're asking taxpayers to pay this year for capital reserve projects out of what we're putting here. You take 377,000 out of that 7 million and change we're talking about, and just take that out of the fund balance. So sure, they'll approve it, they'll approve the projects, because they'll say 0 on the tax rate. It's good, I mean, they're projects we're recommending that we need to keep the community running, but it also reduces what's gonna hit them at their bill by almost $400,000.
Which is the same thing as putting it in the revenue.
I'm just looking for a sustainable way to get these projects funded without constantly paying down the year in advance.
I just don't
Because
want
one year we're gonna end up with, we're not gonna have the money to pay down the year in advance, and our tax rate's gonna spike.
I just don't want you to think that we're just moving how we're recording this. We're not actually changing any of the funding. Because you're gonna be moving the 377,949 out of that revenue line.
Mhm.
But when the warrant articles pass again, I put that back in that revenue line.
Yeah, but the revenue's coming from fund balance.
That's where that 450 is coming from.
I'm just trying to align, and this is just me, and I'm gonna stop saying, because
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing again. I'm trying to align, like, as opposed to saying, we're gonna spend 450 to buy down, to keep the tax rate
Yeah.
lower next year, even though our expenditures are gonna be higher than that. I'd much rather say, we can leverage our excess fund balance to do capital projects, which I think is reasonable, and then say, okay, this is just how much we're raising this year for, and if we have excess fund balance next year, or we say we have to put the capital projects in, but we're gonna end up doing, if we keep buying it down in the year in advance, is 1 year, and I remember it because it happened, the
first
chairman of my
year.
first year, they bought it down a ton for the previous years, and then they didn't have any money left to do it,
But-
our year, and it spiked.
Right, and one difference here, though, is that we will know that now, instead of when you found out, you didn't find out till the budget was already passed.
Right.
So I can go in and cut out all those capital improvement contributions to capital reserve funds and say that comes out this year because we don't have the fund balance to offset it. Versus your year, that happened, it was already approved, and there's nothing you could do.
So they'd be voting on it knowing this,
I'm
Where is it?
budgeting knowing that I have those funds. That's why I put those in there. I didn't put 600 and something thousand because I know I don't have that amount.
yeah, my last total point on this is that, but the alternative we're gonna give the voters at that point is,
Yeah.
or the baseline budget, which generally will be almost as much, if not more than what, right?
No, because this year with the baseline budget, those warrant articles are all gone. Those are all out of there, so
Okay.
we're paying, either which way, we're withdrawing it from the capital reserve fund, and at the end of the day, when I go to set the tax rate next year, I just put when I go to the state and fill the line in, well, Matt and I do, we put that money back in the same exact line. Nothing
I
changes.
think we should have this conversation at we should have had this at 6 PM, not
Yeah.
10 PM, 9 PM.
Well, that's okay. I want to go around once with everybody, because there's a lot of lights. So Counselor Bentley, and then Wright, and then Weinstein. John.
Well, I wish I could remember, maybe Councilor Nazaro will remember, but, so 4 years ago, and what happened, that biggest thing was the state, when they decided they weren't gonna do the pension thing.
It was only half of it. The other half was we couldn't buy it down.
And we'd already done it.
The years before it had been expended.
Inflated. And we had some experts, and it's before everyone else here, but came and told us, don't do that. Don't keep having fake numbers because of that, and then the perfect storm hit us. But, I mean, if it's a pay me now, pay me later thing, I look at it and say, as a taxpayer, if we took half of this and gave it back to the taxpayers, and then put the other half to next year maybe, or left it in the fund, but why do we not?
Well, I haven't been able to finish what my proposal was gonna be. You can use money, if you wanna get to 7%, which you're still safe, unless we have some really if you get to 6%, and unless we had some catastrophic situation, you have additional $230,000 that you could use. I mean, you can give it back just at what you book it as. You have to book, and I know you don't like this, but you have to put it on that revenue line to reduce the budget, so you get a tax break that year.
But you're also adding that to the 450.
The 450,
Yeah.
plus the 450.
I just want to go around once to
Yeah.
get everybody's point of view, and then you
Yeah,
can...
I just want to tell you there is money
And
there.
then you can respond.
Yeah.
So, John, do you want to, you've made your, do you want to...
I would just say it again, that's what I've heard for this, my 5th year now. When I talk to the people, is that times are still tough, everyone thinks we're out of it, just recently. Thinks we're out of this bad mess and we're not, and we got to do everything you can do to reduce tax rate to them. Not about next year, not about next year's budget, it's what they're gonna pay. And I think it is kind of a pay me now, pay me later. I think, okay, we do that, and then one year it's gonna go up, but it's a tricky, slippery slope, I think, but I would like to see some of it go to reducing the tax rate, not go to the next year's budget.
Hold on.
I just want to clarify on that.
Yeah.
The tax rate has been set. So when I'm saying this, you only can reduce next year's budget.
Which is what we're looking at. If we do anything, it's going to hit next...
Next November when we set the tax rate.
Next year's tax rate.
Right. Tax rate's been set, it's 25.75.
Which is the 450 is buying down next year's tax
Right.
rate.
Counselor Wright.
In 2013, we used $286,000 in the fund balance, and now we're up to $250,000. I mean,
450.
Yeah.
Yep.
450. And we keep talking about the fund balance and paying down. What is it, it's gonna affect, what our whole budget, for the year, what's it gonna be on the average taxpayer?
The average taxpayer right now, the rate right now for the town is $6.18.
This is just, yeah.
So the average home now is about 233,000.
That was 250.
So you multiply it by 6.18, divide by 1,000. So it's $1,439 a year versus this current year, which we have budget, we've already set. The rate is $6.22 per thousand, times 233. Whoops, sorry, the wrong button.
He's not adding the school into this.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
true.
kind of
Right.
skewed. It's not really...
It's actually $10 difference. It's a $10 reduction over last year for the town.
The warrant article added about $1 that passed last year, I think, a couple of warrant articles.
Not
on the
not
town
ours.
side, not on the town side.
Yeah,
or-
I don't, yeah.
I don't know, I think it's a fool's game. The way we're buying it down. So you're using 233,000, correct?
That's the average home right now. Yep.
Right now, and what was the average home last year?
That's the rate I'm comparing it to. The rate we just set
Yeah.
is the average home is 233, that's the 622 and the 618 that I'm using. Last year's the average home was 250. The rate at that point in time, because the valuation was 607, but the rate with our current values,
No, let's not do the rate with current value, let's
Okay.
just do it where it should be. What was the rate for last year's tax rate, right?
$6.07.
Okay, times the average house?
Was 250.
250, and what is that?
$1,517 per thousand.
That's just the town side.
Yeah.
So,
And that was 3 years ago. Now it's the 1,439.
So, and Counselor Weinstein has got her light on, I just want to add one thing to this. I have a slightly different take. I sort of look at, when we spend surplus, which is additional revenues from what the town either anticipated or did not ultimately expect to have, those are excess revenues that we are spending. Our spending is going up consistently. And I asked Steve, and I tried to get a handle on it, when the town was valued at what it is now. I think the last time it was like around 2009. And if I'm off a little bit, I'm close enough to make a point. And in 2009, the tax rate was about $21.80. And now the tax rate is almost $26. And, I mean, I'm basing that on the $25.75 and what I was told at $21.80. And a lot of that is not on the town side. A lot of that has been on the school side. And I guess my feeling, and I kind of come down where John is to some degree, and I think Phil, in a similar way, I don't think we look at it that much differently. I think when we have surplus monies come in, whether it's the people are buying more cars, and our revenues are coming in higher than anticipated, that money is taxpayer money when it comes in above and beyond what was anticipated. And to continually, spend that money, whether we do capital improvements or infrastructure or whatever, and never give people any of that money back, and I'm not talking about taking $2 off the tax rate and spending $1.4 million of our fund balance, but I do think there needs to be more balance to the way we spend it. That's just my take. And I don't think it's unfair to, share a conversation, because Steve and I were talking about the roads and, how we need to do some road work and whatnot. And, I think somewhat of the mentality is if we put $100,000 or $200,000 of our fund balance into roads, that's okay. If we put $100,000 or $200,000 into reducing the tax rate, which would be about 30 cents, that's not okay. And I don't know why that's the case. I don't know why it's one or the other without more balance. I feel pretty passionately about this. I think, we need to do road work, we need to maintain the infrastructure. I think the town has done its best on the town side to stay within our budgets and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if we're going to take, the 200,000, I'm just using that number, and say, okay, we're going to put that into a CIP for roads, and we're not going to use any of that money to reduce people's tax rates, then we have a self-fulfilling prophecy to only go up on the tax rate. And if we don't have that money one year, and I think it's a reasonable argument, Steve's concern is we won't be able to buy down the tax rate at all, and people will see, the tax rate go up, whatever we bought it down. And I guess my feeling is at some point, you take a bird in the hand. You may not be able to do it every year. And I'm certainly not talking about taking $700,000 and dropping $1 or $1.4 million and dropping $2. But I don't think consistently using that money that comes in above expectation, which is really a rainy day fund or a surplus, and not giving the taxpayers any relief from it with it, but we'll spend it somewhere else. I just think, you talk about a fool's game, I think at some point the bow will break. I think the taxpayers deserve some kind of break, however humble that may seem. So that's just my take. I think it's similar to what John said to some degree, but I don't think we can just keep on spending more. And I was concerned about it last year when we went up $450, and my concern was we were increasing the budget, and I wanted to sort of drop it a little bit, because that was the first year we really did it that way. But I just had my say, because it's been really bothering me, and it's,
I just want to
feels like a one-way street to me.
to add, I mean, for this year, we're only going up 74,000. We know 60,000 is because of the works comp. So what we're doing is budgeting that return by budgeting the 390,000. I'm just using round numbers. And we actually can say, look, we can give additional, but that's up to the council to decide. If you want to give additional funds, we can give above the 450 to provide tax relief. You know, our recommendation would be probably not much more than an additional 230, because that gets you to 6%. Or if you want to do to 5%, that's an additional 442,000. That's an option.
And I don't want to get goofy, I just want
Yeah.
everybody to know that. I am not looking to leave us in a situation like the first year we were on the council. I just think if it's a one-way street, it's a dead end. Anyway, I
And
had,
and one other thing, I know we were talking about tax rate and comparing the two. 2009 to 2014, the tax rate total has gone up $3.88. The town is 48 cents. The school is $3.31. And the county was 9.
Can you say that again now?
Yep. The difference between the tax rates, in 2009, the tax rate was 21.87.
Yeah.
Tax rate this year is 25.75. The school has increased $3.31. That's state and local, because they get both set of funds. We've gone up 48 cents, and the county went up 9 cents.
But here's, you know,
hold on a minute, Dan, I don't want to interrupt you, but Tony's been waiting. Tony, did you mind if he finishes his thought?
You can finish.
no, all right, now, here's my biggest gripe when we say tax rate.
Mm-hmm.
It means nothing.
You're
It
right.
absolutely means nothing. You're comparing $21 to $23. It went up, correct? But you have to go back and look at the actual value of a home from, you said, to 2011. Look what he is paying in taxes.
I can tell you that.
I have it right here.
I've got it from the assessor,
2009
though,
or
so I've
What's
got
that?
I've got the assessor's numbers.
Is it 9 or 11 are you
From
talking?
2009, when it came to the town, the total tax rate for a home was valued at $225,000. That was the average. The tax bill at that time was $4,921. The tax bill in 2014 on a home that's $232,200 is now $5,979. The municipal rate has gone from $225,000. They're paying $1,292 in 2009. In 2014, at $622 on a 232, they're paying $1,444. On the school, we have on 2009, they were paying $3,402, and now they're paying $4,279.
If you want to go back to year 2000,
Yeah, I've got that.
okay.
We got one, I'm sorry.
I have one home, an example. That entire time, every year, the town tax rate has increased 2.3%. The same amount of time, the school rate has increased 9.8%. And at some point, we cannot go on. We're going to come to a definite point where the tax rate, or what the average home owner is paying, we can't afford it. I'm going for the valuation, I'm using valuations all the way back to 2000, you go up to 2012.
The average home.
No, not the average home, one particular home.
Right. But you've got it, but that's, the market for different homes have different things during that time. So that's why you have to find the average home and go with that route, because you have to say what would the overall impact of the community. And I understand doing one individual as well, because it hits the individual. But when I have to look at town-wide, I need to look at the average.
So if you go back to 2000, what value of a home are you looking at?
We started at 2001 to 14. The value of a home in 2001, the average was $109,600.
Okay, and then 2014, what do you go up to?
232,200.
Okay. Just as long as we're using that comparison.
Councilor Wayne.
So I want to,
Welcome to the council.
I just want to make sure that I'm comparing apples to apples, because when we talk about, so there's this 450, and we're talking about our contributions to the capital.
Mhm.
So, I guess the way I see it is, if we didn't have that 450, we wouldn't make contributions to the capital reserve funds. We
Correct.
wouldn't-
Well, that would be my
I mean, that
recommendation
would
to the
be,
council.
right? So it's not
That would
like-
be in my budget.
It's not that the tax rate would necessarily shoot up through the roof. We just wouldn't make those we wouldn't make those contributions.
You'd have to cut 450.
And so how we want to do that, to me, is just semantics. So if we want to,
Well, no, you might cut, wait a minute, Tony, it might not, just for clarification, it might not just be CIP funds. You may actually not be able to cut just CIP funds. You
You'd
might
have to
have
do
to cut
other-
staff. You might have to
But what-
change the way we're running the town. It's not
Right.
just CIP.
this particular year, we've got 377 of the, is our proposed amount. and
So
it's-
I would have to reduce it by that, I'd have to reduce the operating, if you did not use any fund balance, including the 450, I'd have to reduce the operating budget by that difference.
Right. Which I get that.
Yeah.
And we just reduced the operating budget by, however much anyway, so it's probably all about a wash. So my point is that how we take that 377 is just semantics to me. So if we want to take it and we want to put it into the line item as 450 and put that right into the budget right now, that's fine. If we want to put it on each individual warrant and let people vote on it, that's fine to me too. In the end, it's the same amount of money, essentially. Correct?
Yeah, but
Maybe
you're
that-
right. You'd still need to have $72,051 in that line item, because if not, we'd have to reduce the budget by another $72,051. If you want to use zero fund balance this year, and you do that idea of using everything in the work, in the warrant articles, would still be short $72,051.
Sure.
If you zero it out, so there's nothing in that 450 line item, you're raising 377,000 through fund balance, but I'm estimating use of 450, so I need to still use 7251. But and again, I'm saying you could use additional funds to lower the tax rate portion.
You good, Tony?
Yep.
Counselor Pike,
So.
very patient.
That's okay. I get increasingly confused, and so I don't know what I'm going to say anyways, but,
An honest man.
Well, it ought to be good at this point.
no, let's just, because I think we're at that point where we should have the conversation about what we're going to do about the roads. I think if, I used the example Saturday that, you've got a place, a bunch of pavement in front of Al Zink, our former counselor Al Zink's house. It's, about a 5x4 area that there's not been pavement there for 4 years now. So it's all broke up, and it hasn't been repaired. So I don't know whether, and parts of the other road are not that bad, but they're not that good. So, I think we had a brief conversation that, Rick was asking a lot more money than, you cut the roads back quite a bit. And I'm not sure whether the answer is rebuilding a lot of roads or whether they just need more work going into repair, whether we need to report these things more. I just haven't really got a sense of what is our plan around.
I think we need a plan.
Right.
And is 100,000, does that represent another year where we're underfunding the roads? What should be our near-term goal as a usual amount for funding the road infrastructure? Because I just don't feel comfortable saying, I'm not saying these are great economic times, but I also don't think you can say we continue to be in the midst of a financial crisis. We're 5 years out from 2014 and we're showing surplus is higher than we expect. So we ought to be in at least a near-term normal here pretty quick on how we maintain our roads. That's what
Counselor Bentley and Nazaro.
Well, the bare minimum they say is 5%, and go up to 10%, and I still say split the difference, go to like 7.5 and give it back to payers. I mean, Gary says it's the taxpayers' money through revenue. That's certainly partly true if revenue was over, higher than what we thought. Some is by doing the smart things that the town started, doing the last several years. way back from the town mechanic to the assessor to the code enforcement. Now we're looking at other ways to save money here, save money there on benefits. So there's two ways. So either we, I'm not saying that there's a lot of fluff money. I think this town does a great job budget-wise. It's my 5th year here seeing it, and I think people try to watch out, but when there is money left over for whatever reason, because people came up with innovative ideas on how to save more money, or car licensures were, registrations were up, some of that, I believe, should go back.
They were up about 300, just so you know, John. What was the overall revenue up from projection? Just so you know the number.
Yeah, we were up over 300,000.
Yeah, I think it was 3-something.
But not just motor vehicles, it was
No,
a
no.
whole, it was a whole
But
bunch
what
of
was motor vehicle?
And I agree about roads, I
That-
agree
that
about all the
were-
things we do, but we've been doing them, and my biggest thing is safety, like the police and the fire, that they never suffer because of budgetary. And, we've been really, really lucky, and I thought a lot about it, and wanted to say it on Saturday, but wasn't here Saturday, but, we got really lucky in the Greenland issue with one of our offices being there. We got really lucky in the Brentwood issue, 2 of our offices were in, the house blew up, and the Kingston issue, and then here this spring in Newmarket. I think Chief Sear does a great job in the budget there. If we were talking about cutting something from the police or the fire, but I could care less if it's my road, if we don't do a road or don't do some of the other things right now. And I'm telling you what I'm hearing from people, and is tax rate. Reduce the tax rate. We're not out of this. I know because all the votes are coming up, everyone's trying to say we're out of it, but we're not out of this recession.
Commercial did go up, just for the record. Commercial property in Newmarket, I believe, did go up in valuation. I'm just saying. So, when everybody says we had this big reval and everybody got this big credit, here we are trying to drive some economic development, and I believe commercial did go up. I don't know, that covers a lot of ground, but it's just for the record. So, Phil, Phil can...
So, I do think that if we shifted to the way municipalities do it, capital reserve funding, like Steve suggested, that is a bit of a fundamental transition from the way we've been doing it the last few years. Because what we've been doing the last few years is planning ahead of time to buy down the tax rate, which is really masking expenditures with additional revenues we're adding that we're not raising through taxation. It's really what it is. People don't feel the full brunt right now of what we're spending because we're buying it down with fund balance.
That's also what those, yes, and because they do it both ways. They do it through the capital reserve funds, but they also come out in October, and look at their fund balance and say, okay, I don't want an increase, we'll throw X amount towards it. So they do it both ways, but that's what, I'm doing that when I write my budget. I'm looking and saying, look, I've got $377,000 worth of contribution to capital reserve funds. I know at least I'm going to withdraw $377,000 from fund balance.
Right. So I would rather it was a direct link as opposed to saying, I realize this, so this is what I would rather it's a direct link. It's pulling from fund balance, going into it. It's what the warrant articles say, so people recognize that I'm pulling this out of my savings account, my general savings account, and putting it into my savings account for roads or whatever, which gets to the road situation. There's another 442 sitting there that's above that I would be in favor of, and I realize we don't need another warrant article, but starting a capital reserve fund for roads, the way we discussed on Saturday, and funding it and having a conversation that the chair was just talking about really taking that UNH plan and making it realistic, making it something that we actually can be actionable.
Before we start spending it.
Before we start spending it, put it in capital reserve, take some of the excess, the other 442 that's in here, that's outside of the conversation we've been having, capital reserve a piece of it, let's truly get a plan that actually is going to save us money in the long run, because as opposed to just, catch as catch can, trying to save roads.
Blowing up a road.
Collapse.
Can I make a...
And if we could split the baby and give the taxpayers some money, I think we could make people a little happy.
Just going to recommend something. If we, okay, back up the 377, the 377. We're down to, we have to use 72,051 to offset the budget. Add another 75,000 to that, your tax rate would be 608. So it's that's basically where we were last year.
What are you doing, adding to your revenues?
No,
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I think everybody has to understand this. When I say we're adding to the revenues,
Your projection.
Every plan everybody said here, at the end of the day, we add to the revenues when we withdraw from fund balance.
Right.
No matter what you say. When we do the accounting side, it adds it to the revenues.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is.
You're projecting.
I'm saying withdrawing from
Yeah.
fund balance to offset even further, give it back to the taxpayers.
So if we agree, just to use a number, whether it's 7.5 or 7, just pick a number, what do we have to play with?
Well, I'm gonna get there in 1 second. I'm gonna give you a couple more figures here. 7 is, I would say you're being conservative. I would say you can go to 6%.
Isn't our, doesn't the?
5.
5 is our base.
Right. But 5 is that
That's bare
442. Plus, we already know we're adding
Well,
7.
give us both numbers. I'm just.
Yeah, let me
what's-
finish what I'm saying, because
yeah.
we already know we're adding $70,000 because of the issue with the workers' comp. Means Social Security. We already know we're adding 70. So, if we
And then he
take,
gets a $20,000 penalty for the mistake.
so my number I would use is the 6%, so it's $230,000 above. If you use 75,000 offset to use the tax rate, that would get you down to the 607 of last year. So then you have the 160,221, say we're on 50 to put in the road capital, to create a road capital reserve fund withdrawing from fund balance. Our fund balance would be at 6%, so it's safe. And you'd also be giving tax relief.
How much?
You'd be down to 608.
But what's the real, what's the cents? How many cents is that?
That would be between 622 is our current rate, the one we just set, and it would get down to 607, 608, so
14 cents.
14 cents.
So I'm just asking, if we got to 20 cents, if we got to 20 cents tax relief, I wanted 30, but if we
Yeah.
got to 20, what would that leave us for the roads,
Hold on.
if you don't mind?
What did he just say for roads under the?
160-ish.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to feel, like last year, we took a pass completely, which was fine. But I think when people get their tax bills this year, there's going to be, it's going to be more than a cup of coffee and a donut that they're skipping.
The problem is I get, adding 170.
It can't be that much, it's, I'm
No,
asking.
no,
for
no,
another
the problem is everyone wants that 377 out, so I've got to do extra.
Okay, then we're not rushing.
Yeah. Can I borrow that? Thank you.
Absolutely.
As we say at the store, take your time, hurry up.
You know, can I talk over everyone?
Yeah.
We're all going back to roads. And I'll give this to Steve after, but
Yeah.
this is a little, some information. You can spend $29,000 on maintenance, preventative maintenance, or you can let the $29,000 go and spend $350,000 on repairs.
Yeah.
And it's got a curve here. I'm not saying if we need a road plan. I mean, really articulated road plan, and I don't know anything about roads, but it just seems like we spent $250,000 on one section road where there's no PM.
And then we
It-
reclaim them.
That's what I'm saying, there has to be some point
No,
where we
but
can
then we
figure it
re-
out.
We reclaim them and then we don't really maintain them. And it's not, I think we really need to be more focused in general on just get a plan, like he said, together.
Some roads may be
And
rough
that-
and leave them that way, you know?
And I know you think that UNH plan, I'm not saying it wasn't the greatest plan, but I think we need to take that and then target it to, use and prioritization within the town. I don't know that they had all
Oh, I'm sure
the
they did.
knowledge that people here have on, so what happens is things get so bad that we end up just blowing up a road, like they did, whatever it was, Ashwamp, or whatever the road ran, or whatever we just did.
If you wanted to get down to
Just don't throw the sharp part at
20
me.
cents, I'm rounding to get you actually 601 by using fund balance.
Yeah,
You'd have 105,000 left to put into,
roads, which
Road-
is,
a capital
which is
reserve
north
fund.
of 100 grand, plus we have 100 and something this year, correct?
yeah.
So that would be over 200,000. I'm just saying, we had 130 this year? I don't remember
So
exactly.
what?
The roads.
125.
125.
What's that put us in percentage for the reserve, fund balance
That would put
reserve?
us at 6%.
And that would leave us with, when you say 6%, is that really artificially low because we're adding back in some of that money, or is that with that money be
That's
added
with
in?
the 450 carried forward, right, or still there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps saying, I'm figuring
No,
this
I'm
out.
asking about the money for the
The
FICA.
70, no, that doesn't include that.
So if you added that, it's more than 6. That's what I'm asking you.
You know, slightly,
Okay.
yeah. But it's,
What
even
about
this
the
is
other, what
slightly-
about the other cuts we made?
No, that has nothing to do with it.
So just so we all know, did the other cuts we made in conjunction with the FICA, how does that play into this whole
Cuts
thing?
make no impact, the cuts to the operating budget has no impact on fund balance.
The tax rate is.
Right.
So is the tax rate you're calculating right now based on the budget with the cuts we discussed, or the one that we're looking at this
Sorry,
paper
I
here?
couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
Is the tax rate that you're calculating right now?
Yes,
Based on
The cuts
the
you
budget
made.
we have here, or the cuts we made?
the cuts you
Okay,
made.
so they're already calculated.
Yeah.
is what he's-
Okay. But he didn't add in the FICA number?
No, he
Yeah.
did.
Or you did? I'm just
What FICA number are you
The
asking?
one that we're reducing from,
Yes, that's included. The number I said was, we're gonna have a savings in FICA this year because it was budgeted that way.
There's like 70,000 on the table.
Right.
This year.
That's gonna go back into fund balance, so that will bump us up some.
Well, that's what I've been saying.
That's like a
Well,
drop
that's,
in
that,
the
that-
bucket.
that- that's what we're clarifying.
okay, that's what I've been.
So if you use 377,949 to go up, offset all the capital reserve contributions, and then you still include in that operating budget 125,000, that will reduce the tax rate to 601. Okay? And then you can have 105,000 to put into a capital reserve fund for roads, and that'll get us to 6%.
And that 105, as menial as that may seem, in conjunction with the 125, if we target some, I don't know what the proper verbiage is, but reclaiming or mending or whatever it is, versus just, doing a patch for 2 miles or 1.5 miles or whatever it is, it might be a better use of that money. I don't know. Like I said, we don't know enough about the roads, but I would be happier doing that. I think would be a little more fair to the overall taxpayers. Tony's had a light on for a while. I just want to.
I'm not sure why I had my light on, but I do have a question now, and that's, it's changed.
So if we hold off long enough, everybody will forget what the hell they.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Public council.
What happens when we put all of these warrant articles on the ballot,
Yeah.
and let's say half of them don't get voted in?
The fund
Then what
balance
hap-
goes back up.
Goes back to the fund balance.
If something doesn't pass and we're withdrawn from fund balance, we don't withdraw it from fund balance.
But it's going to be presented, Tony, in the context, if I'm
Has no
right.
impact.
You know.
No, that we are supporting it in theory, right?
We'll find out
And then the
on
budget
Wednesday.
committee's going to make their determination. So it's been my experience that in general, if you have a pretty significant pro vote,
Yep.
the voters generally go along with it, in general. I'm not saying it's an
Which
absolute.
has been my experience also. I was just curious what would happen to that money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Except
that
for the
would get
125
passed,
people that
I
always
mean.
vote no.
Right, there's always that.
There are 125 people that always vote no.
Yeah, no matter what.
Well, they also vote
Wow.
for, John Paul Jones.
With
so-
300 of them one year,
Yeah.
both to go to the default budget, which
Yeah.
was more than.
Yeah.
the-
Can people live with that, or do people
Because
have a major?
I wanna write I've gotta write the resolution.
Do people have a
for
major
Wednesday.
aversion to what's?
So that was set
I mean,
at
it's okay
20%,
if you do.
20% reduction in the taxes.
Yeah.
And that
I'd
puts
rather we
us
were
at
at 6.5% sitting there instead of just going down to 6.
Your odds are to be 6.5%.
I love that. Going down to 6 feels like we're getting close to the
Too
razor's
close to
edge.
five.
Well, what's the real dollar amount? Just so we know, what is that
What's the
exactly
percent
gonna
mean?
be?
What's the
at
half a
6?
percent mean?
Yeah, it's 6, what is it, Steve, versus 6? If you can give us a round number. Come on, Matt, do something.
My computer died, so,
If we can't have a little fun with you now, buddy.
yeah.
Matt's been on monster.com over there.
1,275,1644 is 6%.
So
What's the
1,000,002
difference?
versus,
Versus which number?
1.9.
I'm looking for the
Asking
half
for the half a
percent.
point.
What's the half percent if I went from 6 to 6.5?
maybe 1 through, would it be much more?
0.5% of 21,252,740. It's about 106.
So the 70 that's coming back.
Plus
It's almost washing it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think
That's all.
we're being completely whacked out. I think last year we didn't do much. I mean, we didn't really do anything, Phil, in all honesty, as far as giving anybody anything. And I don't think people have seen any break. And I think the people that own commercial property, you know, and I don't want to belabor it, but we are trying to make it somewhat attractive. When people start looking at the costs of property in town, which has gone up, you know, the commercial valuations. I mean, you know, when we're getting close to $26 a thousand, which we're already locked in now, you know, we're at $25.75, it's not going to be, you know, an attractive,
Yeah.
it'd
I mean,
just be nice to change.
all we can control is the municipal side.
I know. But it would be nice to just change the paradigm a little bit if we can. So, everybody knows my suggestion, so if anybody has a different one.
So if we went with those figures, you're saying we get close to 6.5% then?
Yeah, if we added that, if
If
we
we
added
added-
100,000, which,
Which we're within 30-ish.
right, but the only thing is, remember next year you won't have all these funds that we're discussing to do the capital reserve funds, unless we add 575 sometime between now and then.
Explain that again, please.
What we're saying is, after we withdraw these 575, you're gonna get down to 6%. We're estimating we're adding 100. But next year, you're not gonna have the 575
To play with.
to play with.
So that means
You're gonna, unless we add $575,000
in revenues.
in revenue,
Or you cut your budget a little bit.
570, right, you won't have.
Not all of it. No,
No,
I'm
no,
just-
and that's what we would do. But
And
I'm
I-
just saying, understand that.
That's what I want to see happen.
So, I don't want to belabor this anymore, but if we do adjust it, shouldn't that 377, adjusted that we're taking out of the out of the fund balance excess, shouldn't we reduce the estimated amount we're going to tax in 16 by the
will.
377,000?
You will. That is that figure. I've already
That's that
figured that,
figure,
yeah.
okay.
It's just in fiscal year 17, you're just not going to have those kind of surpluses.
Right.
If you don't have those, if you don't have those, we don't.
And, you know, I think we need to make that clear to people that we're trying to, because you know something, in all fairness, Phil, if we had taken the 200+ for roads, just to play devil's advocate, and we had them in a CIP, and we didn't have the revenues come in, we'd be in the same place. It's just, we're giving people a little bit off versus they're paying more. The money would still be gone if we took that money out that was gonna go into the CIP.
I mean, we've just been living in we've been being able to mask to a certain extent for the last couple of years how much it costs to run the town, because we've been able to afford to buy down the tax rate. And this is just aligning us to, this is how much it costs to run the town.
We don't
Let's
have
have a
that
real
right.
conversation about how much it costs.
I mean, I feel better about it, and I think a lot of times, and I don't want to, you know, belabor anything either, but some of the sessions that we've had when, you know, and I can't help it, but, you know, people analogize a cup of coffee and a donut to $1 million warrant article and stuff. This is where it comes to roost, because I think, what was the school, 92 cents? What was the difference this year, 98 cents, 92
Yeah,
cents?
98
It's
cents.
almost a buck from the warrant articles last year. It's a lot of money. It's like, if without, and I'm not saying it's good, bad, or different, I'm just stating as a matter of fact, we would be at, without doing anything, we would be at 24.75. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have passed them. I'm just saying that at some point, we've got to be thinking about what we're doing.
I'll say for all this work, it's like less than 12 or 13 bucks that I'm personally going to be saving per tax bill. So,
Well, you know, it's not,
I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying that that's where it's at, just for me, because I'm on where I am.
believe me, I'm not seeing anything myself. This isn't personal.
No, I'm not saying this is personal, it's not my.
I really think it's just that we've been sort of turning our backs on doing anything for anybody else.
So what I'm gonna do is you'll have a resolution on Wednesday evening, and you vote on it Wednesday evening. I will withdraw the capital reserve funds from this in each of those, which you already have. I just have to change one word in each of the resolutions. And that's it, you vote on it Wednesday night. And then then it goes to the budget committee.
So that's the formal vote.
Yeah. And also all the warrant articles, when you vote yes, you'll be recommending at the same time, so we don't have to confuse everything.
So we'll get all the warrant articles.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you said get ready to read. I'm going to be reading every one of the warrant articles in full?
Yep.
So it's not going to be, are they, I'm just asking.
They're not,
it's
they're
gonna
all
be an hour
separate.
worth of reading?
No, there's only like 2 paragraphs for each.
Okay, that's fine. Is there any last comments from anybody?
I want to
Steve?
thank the council for their due diligence in working with the department heads. I want to thank the department heads and Matt for all their work here as well.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the council too for working well together, whatever it's worth, pretty much.
Way to go, man.
And I'd like to thank Matt for making a $70,000 mistake.
Why don't you say it again?
Well, no, it's good. It saved us
Oh,
some
yeah,
money.
yeah.
That's a good thing. I bet better that it's the other way, not the other way.
Motion to adjourn.
Are we adjourned? Yeah. We are adjourned.
Yeah.